Hey everyone, meet Kevin here. Everybody's going crazy for the Joe Rogan podcast with Elon Musk. We're going to watch and react to it together. So let's get right into it. This just dropped. So here we go. Let's listen in.
Rogan podcast by night, all day.
Oh yeah. Got to start with the smoking. Of course, it's cigars this time.
It's like looking in the mirror.
Have you seen that before? Did people get you?
No.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
He's awesome. He's pretty edgy.
Dude, Elon looks like the Hex coin guy. No, what are you doing?
Amazing that he puts out a piece of art per day, 365 days a year.
Yeah. I was following him on the X platform, FK Twitter, but some of it was too jarring.
Too jarring, some of the images.
Yeah.
Well, cheers, sir.
Cheers.
And happy Halloween.
Cheers.
Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks for rolling up in the Cybertruck too.
Yeah.
I got a chance to look at it in the factory, but that was almost was that like a year and a half ago or so?
Was it?
It was a while ago.
Yeah, a year ago, I guess.
Yeah, at least a
Maybe-
year.
At least a year.
And it's different in real life. Like you see it in person. Like you see, images are just what we were talking about. You just can't contextualize them.
Yes.
It looks so odd that you have to
Yeah.
see it in the flesh.
It looks like computer graphics in reality.
Yeah, it's the coolest looking fucking production car that's ever been made.
It's bulletproof.
I agree.
Literally.
Literally.
Yeah.
One of the videos we're going to show is just going all like full Al Capone. Just like if Al
We should-
Capone showed up and emptied
Tommy.
the entire magazine of a Tommy gun into the side of the car, you'd be okay.
Yes.
The only thing that's not bulletproof is the glass.
The glass
Explain
is
that.
optionally bulletproof. But
Oh, it is optional?
if
No.
you want it, you can make anything bulletproof if you want. But the glass has to be very thick for it to be bulletproof. So it can't go up and down. So if you want fixed glass,
Oh. Then how do you order drive-through?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's like a bank.
You gotta pull ahead, and open the door, and
Yeah.
get out.
But it's okay. You can just duck.
Yeah, you can just duck.
And that is you just duck. That's worth noting is that if you actually did a bulletproof glass, it'd probably be an inch to an inch and a half thick with multiple laminated layers. Wouldn't be very practical. So worth keeping that in mind for the whole bulletproof nature of the Cybertruck. Probably won't be fully bulletproof. As Elon said here, you could just duck.
You from full like delivering them to people? Has anybody gotten them yet?
We plan to do our first deliveries next month.
Oh wow! So now it's just testing and fucking around.
The hard part by far is manufacturing, not designing the car. And there's just not really a movie about that, but there should be. In the sort of the movies will always be about the sort of inventor who invented the car, and then the job is done.
Right.
That's or invented the object. Now the job is done. This is not true. That's the easy part. The hard part is manufacturing by far.
Why is it so much harder than making an individual model?
Oh, he's got to please explain the exoskeleton versus the endoskeleton here. This would be the perfect part to talk about it because nobody talks about that. We see the Cybertruck. We think about it as a normal car, right? 2 hours later.
Well, in order to make it affordable, you have to make it at volume. So you've got to make everything at high rate, consistently. If you tour the production line, you'd have a sense for it. You've got to have all of the casting machines, all of the stamping machines, as the case may be, the glass machines, the wheels, the tires, everything required from the motor, the battery cells, all of the constituents of the battery cells, all of the silicon that goes in there, the chips. The manufacturing is somewhere between 100 and 1,000 times harder than making a prototype.
Whoa.
And then if you want to say like you want to get from once you reach volume manufacturing, which is insanely difficult, then you want to make the car affordable. It's harder to say reduce the cost of the car by 20% than it is to get to volume production in the first place. So I really cannot emphasize enough how hard production is relative to design. I'm not saying the design is trivial, because you have to have taste and you have to know what to make. If you don't have a taste and judgment, then your prototype will be bad. But it is trivial, really, to churn out prototypes, and it is extremely difficult to build a factory.
And how
Keep in mind, they're dressed like this for Halloween. A lot of people commenting that, he kind of looks like the Hex Coin dude. So we're like, what is Elon doing? It is Halloween.
much more difficult is it to make this, considering the body's made out of steel? It's
very difficult. The difficulty of manufacturing is proportionate to the amount of new technology that you have in a car or in the product. And in this case, there's a lot of new technology. The production line will move as fast as the slowest and least lucky and most foolish part of the entire production line. And you could say,
yeah, and I think this would be where it's so useful for him to talk about that Exos. This is something that Sandy Munro's talked about a lot before, just how the outside is the structure, the frame of the vehicle, with the exception, obviously, of the axles.
to first approximation, there are 10,000 things that have to go right, at least, for production to work. So if you have 9,999 things that are working and one that isn't, that sets the production rate. Yeah. But by far the hardware. In fact, really the amazing thing about automobiles was not so much the invention of the automobile, but the invention of the factory, the mass manufacturing. And for that, Henry Ford deserves a tremendous amount of credit. He was next level genius. And in fact, Ford is really responsible for the entire mass manufacturing industry because he actually founded Cadillac, which was the heart of General Motors. Then got kicked out, then started Ford.
Really?
Yeah, and everyone just copied him.
Do you know he made one of his first cars out of hemp?
Hemp. Oh, no. Worth noting quickly, just from a news point of view, that now Bloomberg's reporting that workers at Tesla's factory in Fremont in California have formed an official organizing committee, and the UAW is stepping in to fund part of the effort. So think about the UAW, which just finally negotiated a deal with Ford and GM, coming in to say, hey, we will fund you in creating a union at Tesla. And if we could create one union, why not start in California? And then we could take the example of that and make it happen in Texas and all around wherever Tesla facilities are. Certainly Germany would be next. So heads up, the unions are coming for Elon.
Well,
he used hemp fiber for the panels.
Okay.
Yeah, it's this fascinating video of him banging on it with a hammer, because hemp is bizarrely durable when it's compressed, and when they take the fibers, and I don't know what kind of epoxy they use or something to put it all together, but what it makes with the actual physical form of it is insanely light.
Yeah.
Like fiberglass light, but very, very durable. See if you can find the video. It's kind of crazy. Henry Ford is banging on I believe it was the hood of it with a hammer.
Yeah.
Here it is. So this was like, look at that. Isn't that crazy?
As well.
I don't know why they stopped making them out of that. That was from 1941. How much does the Cybertruck weigh?
It depends on configuration, but it's about 7,000 pounds.
Whoa.
7,000. Hey, that's just above the 6K for your tax deduction, by the way. We'll take a look at this is an old flyer here I'm going to pull up. It's a flyer of the grown from soil hemp car. One of Ford's first cars ran entirely on hemp ethanol. The body was also constructed from hemp plastic, which was 10 times stronger than steel. So it not only ran on hemp fuel, but also ran or was also constructed out of hemp. So it's both what Joe Rogan said about the construction being hemp, but also hemp fuel.
There's different versions, but 7,000 pounds. It's like similar to, like, it's a heavy truck,
like a Ford F-250 or something like that.
Yeah,
and it, because of all of the metal and the weight and everything like that, but with the engines that you have, it's still, the 0 to 60 is pretty bizarre, right? It's like 3.5 or something like that.
We're aiming to get the 0 to 60 below 3 seconds.
Below 3.
Wow.
Wow.
For the beast mode version. So we've got
That's going to be the tri-motor, which we're expecting they're going to start with releasing the dual and the tri-motor versions, the higher end ones. We'll see what ends up
beast mode
happening.
version. That's so there's well, I don't want to give it all away right now, but
Do it.
There are 3 demonstrations. One of them people are aware of, which is emptying a Tommy gun into the side of the car,
Right.
a shotgun, 45 and a 9mm, and no penetrations.
Wow.
And it comes that way from the factory.
Can I try it with an arrow?
Yeah, it'll be fine.
You think so?
I mean,
I bet I can get
a
in
crossbow might.
there. I have a 90-pound compound bow that shoots 520 grain arrows at 300 feet per second. With a
Is this like Rust? Where hey, can you get a bow through it? Elon's like, maybe a crossbow. Nah, man, compound bow.
I think an arrow.
razor sharp broadhead.
We could try right now if you want.
I wish I had it with me. I don't.
Is it at your house or something?
Yeah,
Should we send someone to go get it? We could
No.
do the demo tonight.
that would be interesting.
Maybe I'll drive back with an arrow sticking out of my car.
I bet I could get in there.
Okay, I'll bet you can't.
Really?
Yeah, I'll bet you $1.
Damn.
I
I'd like. Damn,
think
wish
if you have a crossbow that's with enough force, you might a crossbow.
the thing about a
might
crossbow is
get
the
through.
bolt. Even though it's very fast, it's not going to be nearly as heavy. You won't have
you-
as
but
many
you can make-
grains.
You can make a heavy crossbow bolt.
You could,
Yeah.
yeah, but generally, crossbow bolts are considerably lighter. They're much smaller, and they're much faster. They're moving at like 400, 500 feet per second.
Spoiler alert, on Twitter, they actually show doing this, and it is arrow proof. Just kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean the thing that matters is kind of the energy per unit area. So so interesting, like a 9mm or a 45, which is basically sort of a 10mm. The 45 is they're roughly the same, but the 45 actually is slightly worse penetration than a 9mm.
You know what? I just realized I do have some broadheads. And I have a less powerful bow, but I have an 80-pound bow
Go
back
for it.
there. I think we should do it.
Absolutely.
Okay. When you want to do it right now?
Yeah, I can do it right now.
Okay,
if you
let's
want.
do it right now. Let's
Great.
find out.
Fuck yeah, let's do it. Sick.
We'll be right back.
This could be funny. But I'm just like, why does he have an arrow sticking out of his car?
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp.
That's awesome.
It-
So we'll see. We'll get to see the arrow drop next. I'm going to skip around a little bit. Oh, yep. Here's the arrow drop. So we're going to move forward a little bit. And here it is. We get to see the footage of it. Let's go back about 15 seconds. Here we go.
You might want to do it at a slight angle.
Slight angle, Elon says. No. That would make it bounce off. Right in, boy. It's not bad. That's pretty. I mean, you definitely got a dent in it now, but you know what? Joe Rogan gave you the dent. That probably just added value right there. You might think that damaged the car. That just increased the value of that car. Elon should auction that off as the one that was in Joe Rogan's house and shot by Joe.
Blew the arrow apart. Flatten the tip of the arrow. Look at the tip of the broadhead. That's impressive.
Hey, cutie.
Thank you. Well, now we know. So we just shot an arrow into it, and it barely scratched it.
Yeah.
I will say, if you did that to a normal car, the odds are that steel tip would go right through. And as Elon said, I might be driving home with an arrow sticking out of my car. You would expect that. It's a pretty large projectile. Now, that's not to say like a 45 bullet isn't, but the actual head of the bullet is substantially smaller. It might be faster. Maybe we should compare, but the actual head of the bullet would be substantially smaller. Those arrowheads, I mean, you saw it. That was quite long. I mean, that's like bullet and shell casing, kind of crazy. Let's keep going. Come on.
It was probably moving 275 feet a second. That was a 525 grain-ish arrow with, yeah, even more than that, because it had the 125 grain head. So that was 545 grains. That's impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive. It just destroyed the broadhead. The broadhead flattened at the tip. And then the arrow.
A compound bow shoots at about 300 feet per second. A 45 ACP shoots at about 3 and a bit times faster at 830 feet per second.
Blew apart.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's like I said, you could we have a cool video we'll show at the handover event next month, which is emptying an entire magazine of a Tommy gun, which I think is like on the order of 50 rounds. You're just going full Al Capone, you know, like on the side of the car, shotgun, 9mm, 45.
And you built it like this just for fun.
Well, I mean,
because it's cooler.
I mean,
because you can.
You know, trucks are supposed to be tough, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is your truck bulletproof?
Okay.
No, why not?
Yes.
Exactly.
And if I shot mine with my bow, it'd go right through it. 100%. 100%.
So if you shoot any normal car, unlike in the movies where people hide behind car doors, a car door is basically a very thin, mild steel. So if you shoot a gun at it through like a regular truck, it'll go through both doors. So you can't hide behind a car door like they do in the movies. You know, way back in the day.
Law enforcement usually teaches that you should hide behind the wheel well of the car or the engine block, not doors.
Yeah, dating myself, but the A-team where they would like, you know, there'd be like bullets flying everywhere and they'd be hiding behind the car door.
Right.
That doesn't work. But it does in a Cybertruck.
Was there ever?
I mean, it's best in apocalyptic technology.
Yeah, well, you
never know. I mean,
it's an amazing car to have in the apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly.
Does it still do this thing where the ride height raises?
Yeah.
And so you can, and there's also no regular drivetrain, so there's no axles that are the impediment to going over rocks and things like that.
Yeah, normally in other vehicles, in gasoline or diesel vehicles, you've got the differential, which hangs down low between the rear wheels. So you look under a truck, there's almost always a differential there that's hanging down pretty low. So if you hit the diff on a rock, you'll break it.
Yeah.
But there's no the bottom of the Cybertruck is completely flat and has the best clear height of any vehicle.
How far away are we, if it's ever going to happen at all, from having a vehicle that can operate entirely on solar?
Well, you've got a surface area thing. So it's about a kilowatt per square meter, normal to the sun, roughly. So it really depends on what kind of mileage. You can't, you don't have enough surface area to keep the car going just from the car surface area. But if you had like something that folded out, you could make it self-sustaining. Something that folded out, so like you could park it and then leave it on. Yeah, you'd have to like unfold like the Starlink satellites do, where you unfold the solar panels.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way you're getting enough panels, I think, to charge a car. There's a comment here saying it's not an exoskeleton anymore. Sandy Munro has already said that. To clarify on that, Sandy Munro suspects that some of the exoskeleton elements may not have been feasible, but that it's still being built with the exoskeleton frame. It's just that maybe they need larger B pillars on the inside. And so now there's a debate. Is it an exo? Is it not? Does an end user really care? Probably not, but it's worth mentioning. It's certainly a unique and new design, and I thought Elon would give us a little bit more color here on that. So I'm a little disappointed we didn't get some more color on that, because it would have been the perfect time to hear about that. But let's keep going here on charging cars from solar, which there's a startup that does that, like mobile emergency solar panels for charging cars, and it's not a good idea. You just need more surface area. You need. Is there any potential for an advancement in technology that would make a smaller area much better at conducting sun? Nothing. That's a good question. It's a kilowatt per square meter. That's what you're going to get when the sun, if you're normal to the sun, so at 90 degrees to the sun. And there's nothing that could accelerate that, or no. That's just literally the solar energy. That's just it. Yeah. So then you multiply your efficiency by that. So if you commercial 20% panels, like maybe 25% efficient if they're a good one, so you get like 250 watts per square meter.
There was one
roughly
car.
10 feet.
So up the efficiency. That's the answer here is, can you get higher efficiency panels above 20 to 25%?
What was it, like a Fisker that was using a solar panel that claimed that it was
Clickbait.
operating like the electronics, like it could start the radio.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely you just don't have enough surface area for it. But like, but you can like certainly you could run a house with solar, with the solar roof, and the Tesla solar roof. You can run a house.
But it's never going to get to.
I think what he's saying is if you have a kilowatt per square meter, you don't have enough square meters on the house. You know, you have an 80 kW battery. You would need 80 square meters or 1 square meter on the roof of the car and then 80 hours. And then that's not even considering the 20% efficiency factor.
Point where you can just have a car that's made out of solar panels that it could drive around. It could never be that efficient.
Correct. So you do not have enough surface area.
What research or what breakthroughs have been made in terms of battery technology? Like how far away are we from having batteries that are far more efficient and last far longer? I know there's some talk of like sodium-based batteries.
The battery range is not a problem at this point. I mean, the Model S will go 400 miles. Model 3, Model Y will do over 300 miles. So, you know, that's more than most people need. So, yeah.
Right, but are we? I mean, how far away are we from making batteries that are more efficient? This is like we obviously haven't at least.
This is not. What I'm saying is this is not really a constraint. The point at which you've got a car that can do, let's say, even at highway speeds, 250 miles, then or let's say 240 miles at 80 miles an hour. Now you're driving for 3 hours straight. And so if you start a trip at, say, 9 a.m., by noon you want to stop for lunch, go to the restroom, grab a coffee. By the time you come back, your car is charged.
How long does it take to fully charge?
Yeah, like half an hour. Well, you don't want to. It's the people will get used to it because it's a little different. You know, like for a gasoline car, you'd want to fill it up. For an electric car, you'd want to actually go very close to zero, and the car can calculate how much range it has with precision. So if you pull up, say, enter a road trip in a Tesla, it'll calculate all of the supercharges along the way, where you should stop, how much you should charge, and just let the computer do its thing, and it'll work well. So you actually want to charge to about 80%, and then run it down all the way to 10%, I'd say, or less.
Do you want to do that on everyday use as well, or just with long trips?
No, just long trips. If you're trying to minimize the amount of time you stop when charging. So let's say you want to stop for 20-30 minutes, then you really it's a little counterintuitive because for a gasoline car you would fill it up. For a battery, the charge state tapers off as you get above 80%. You can think of it like I think the right analogy here is cars in a parking lot. So the lithium ions are trying to find a parking space as they move across, from one side of the battery to the other side, from cathode to anode. I mean, they're sort of just these ions are just bouncing around looking for a parking space. So when the parking lot's empty, they can zip right in there and find a spot. It's easy. As the parking lot gets full, just like trying to find a parking space at a mall, you have to hunt around for a spot. And that's basically what's going on, is the ions are looking for a parking spot. So as the battery gets closer to full, it's harder and harder to find a spot. They have to bounce around more.
So it takes longer
just like
to get from 80 to 100.
Correct. Getting from 80 to 100, it takes about as much time as getting from 0 to 80.
Oh.
Just think
It's
of
an
like
interesting analogy to compare to, this idea that, and generally what they recommend when you own an electric vehicle is that every day you charge your car up to 80. You want to sit at 80. But that's usually what we think is when we go to, like a dinner or whatever, and we're low on battery, we'll charge up to 80%. And then if you want to sit at the dinner longer before having to get your car from the supercharger, you kind of bump it to 100%, even though you're not supposed to fill it up all the time. But it just gives you so much more time to hang out at the dinner table.
Ions got to find a parking spot.
Oh.
And just like if you're in a mall and you're like, and it's busy, then
It's a good analogy.
it takes longer to find a parking spot than if it's empty.
So you're satisfied with the technologies available right now in terms of like the amount of mileage that you get out of it and things along those lines.
Yeah, range is not an issue. Cost is more of an issue. So just need to make the car affordable. A long range car needs to be affordable.
When you fully roll out, how many of those things, how many Cybertrucks can you guys make a month?
We're aiming to make about 200,000 a year at volume production.
Wow.
Maybe a little.
Remember in the earnings call, he mentioned 250,000 a year. Maybe somebody fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure he said $250,000. So here we are 2 weeks later. We just shaved off another, what, 20%? Oh, come on, man.
A little more. But I just can't emphasize enough that manufacturing is much, much harder than the initial design. You can... Not that the Cybertruck was easy to design. I'm not trying to trivialize design. It's just what I'm trying to do is to emphasize the difficulty of manufacturing, which is not understood by the public because there's no movie about it. So there's lots of movies about the sort of wild inventor in the garage, but I'm not aware of any movie about manufacturing. Have you ever heard of a movie about manufacturing?
I can't remember any. Jamie, any movie about
There's
manufacturing?
one coming in my brain, but I don't think that's what it's even about. So I have no idea.
What is that?
Michael Keaton was making some cars in somewhere. I was going to look it up.
I mean, there's Tommy Boy.
Yes,
Tommy Boy's the only one.
That's about as
Great
good as
movie.
I think,
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
That might be the only one. That's interesting that it's such an immense part of American culture and also the decline of some American cities. I mean, it's famously documented in Roger and Me, which is a great documentary where he just talks about how Flint got destroyed when they pulled out the car manufacturing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's another big thing. A lot of people are so excited when it comes to real estate about investing in towns that are relying on some of these older ICE vehicle manufacturers that are refusing to transition to EV. And the question is, what happens to those towns' real estate values if all of a sudden those manufacturers are gone? It's not great, right? The depreciation risk is huge. Depreciation risk, actually, in this case.
I mean, there's a reason why generally politicians really try very hard to get a factory in their area is because it's a massive generator of jobs. And for every factory job, there's like roughly five support jobs, so it's like teachers, electricians, plumbers, lawyers, accountants, whatnot, restaurants. So manufacturing is kind of like a nucleus from which many jobs spring. That's why it's generally, governors and prime ministers and presidents will try so hard to get a factory in their country or region.
When you decided to build the Gigafactory, and when you decided, just even when you decided to get involved with Tesla, did you have any idea of how difficult this would be? Did you have a preconceived notion?
I thought it would be very difficult. I thought our probability of success was less than 10%.
Whoa.
Yeah. It seems like he's carrying over that same sort of bearishness to today, right?
I mean, it would be foolish to think anything else other than that. I mean, even at this point, the only car companies that have not gone bankrupt are Ford and Tesla, American car companies. General Motors went bankrupt and Chrysler went bankrupt in 2009. There's some chance they'll go bankrupt again. Ford and Tesla barely made it. It was incredibly difficult to keep Tesla alive when General Motors and Chrysler were going bankrupt. So, because manufacturing is the actual hard thing, not that by far the hard thing. I just can't emphasize that enough, and I hope somebody makes a movie about that.
Maybe they should make a movie about Tesla.
Sure.
Why not?
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's kind of what he's implying already. I think he kind of wanted Joe Rogan to say that because he's been implying that. How many times has Elon said there's no movie about it? Like 7 already this podcast here. Come on, Elon.
Who would you want to play you?
I don't care.
How about David Spade?
anyone.
No,
I don't care.
I'm kidding.
I don't care if anyone plays me. But I do think that
I just went back
there's-
to Tommy Boy.
yeah, that movie rocks. Jim Farley is the CEO of Ford, and he's Chris Farley's cousin.
No way.
Yes.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yes.
That's crazy.
And they look related.
Yeah, there should be a movie.
Yeah.
You got to get someone good that doesn't fuck it up. Someone doesn't.
Well, I mean, the thing is that writers are just disconnected from manufacturing. They just never see it. So,
Right.
and I guess you have to try to create some narrative arc. I mean, there are some shows like How It's Made type of thing, but they're pretty niche. But I know about some of a broken record here, but I can't emphasize enough that it is insanely difficult to manufacture.
All right.
Makes
Next.
sense.
Come on, Elon.
Well, it particularly makes sense when it's something that novel. Something.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit because this part's boring.
But
I mean, this is going to sound somewhat melodramatic, but I was worried about that it was having a corrosive effect on civilization.
Why?
That it,
infinitely easier.
yeah.
What has it been like? You've owned X for a year now.
Oh yeah.
Twitter.
Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and have a dream that you didn't do it? And your life is infinitely easier?
Well, it's certainly
Oh.
A recipe for trouble, I suppose, or contention.
What was it ultimately that led you to make the decision to do it?
Not Tesla stock going up.
I mean, this is going to sound somewhat melodramatic, but I was worried about that it was having a corrosive effect on civilization. That it was just having a bad impact.
This is crazy because Twitter is way more corrosive now. It feels like the only thing that gets amplified on Twitter is negative news. It used to be all news got amplified. Now it's like just negative news. Oh, it's so corrosive now.
And I think part of it is that it's where it was located, which is downtown San Francisco. And while I think San Francisco is a beautiful city, and we should really fight hard to kind of right the ship of San Francisco. If you've walked around downtown San Francisco, right near the FK Twitter headquarters, it's a zombie apocalypse. I mean, it's rough. Have you been in that area?
Not lately. No.
Yeah.
I've heard.
It's crazy.
I've heard it's crazy. I've heard you really can't believe it until you actually go there.
You can't believe it until you go there. So now you have to say, well, what philosophy led to that outcome? And that philosophy.
Ooh, this is an interesting comment. Somebody writes, Elon is still no-go on his advertising stance. The movie push is him usurping Kevin's ad recommendation for advertising. That's an interesting suggestion.
Was being piped to Earth. So, a philosophy that would be ordinarily quite niche and geographically constrained, so that the sort of the fallout area would be limited. Whereas
so far, the stock's going up, by the way, worth noting. Some people were asking me to pull this up. So here it is. Look at that. That's been since like podcast release. So you're up about 2.5% there. Just pretty stable, actually, since the podcast has been out.
effectively given an information weapon, information technology weapon to propagate what is essentially a mind virus to the rest of Earth.
Yeah.
And the outcome of that mind virus is very clear if you walk around the streets of downtown San Francisco. It is the end of civilization.
Whoa. This is bullcrap, man. This is bullcrap. You like downtown San Francisco is a problem of homelessness and drugs. And yes, it is like the disaster of society. But suggesting that Twitter somehow prevents that, these are like talking about two different extremes. Like, if anything, Twitter leads people to be more depressed. And I don't know, man. That's a sussy argument.
It's not just propagating the mind virus, but suppressing any opposing viewpoints.
Yes. Well, in order for the virus to propagate, it must suppress opposing viewpoints. So,
because it doesn't stand up to scrutiny.
What they're doing is they're making the argument of, hey, like, if the White House can go in and delete critics' comments, then that's a problem, right? I agree with that. Like, the Twitter files were revealing. That is true. That's a problem. As far as Elon suggesting that that's what leads to people being drugged out in San Francisco, that's a slippery slope comparison. That's totally extreme. What leads to real problems in society is what the Financial Times was talking about the other day, which is people not having depth of perspective. And unfortunately, Twitter generally encourages short snippets of vertical scrolling and aggravation and hate sharing. I don't know, man.
correct.
Yeah.
I mean, you've felt the virus. You know? Yeah. People have tried to cancel you so many times.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't think you're melodramatic at all. I think it's I mean, I don't want to be melodramatic, but it's almost like a death cult.
It's a death cult. No, that is exactly right. It's essentially the extinctionists. Like, it's in the limit. It is that they're propagating the extinction of humanity and civilization. And there's some people who are like most of the time it's implicit. They don't explicit, but sometimes it's explicit. Like, there was a guy on the front page of the New York Times who literally has the thing called the extinctionist movement, and he was quoted on the front page of the New York Times as saying, "There are 8 billion people in the world, but it would be better if there were none." And I'm like, well, buddy, you can start with yourself.
Yeah.
Does
he have friends?
Bro, that's like encouraging suicide. What are you saying? Stop. I think when people make an argument that, like, oh, the world would be better off without humans, I mean, to some extent, if humans are contributing to climate change, which they probably are, but that climate change was likely happening anyway, are humans making enough of a difference, right? That's where the case is. It's like, if we're just accelerating climate change by 50 years, does it make that much of a difference if humans are here or not? I don't know about that. And then who knows? Maybe humans can shoot down asteroids and prevent the asteroids from hitting the United States or America, the world, whatever, and actually preserve more life. I don't know. This is kind of nonsensical.
That's what always fascinates me.
Well,
Here he is.
that guy.
He looks like you not long for this earth.
I mean, he's not
Voluntary
young.
human extinction movement. That's hilarious. I'd like to party with that dude. I would
Okay.
just like to
That's
yeah.
the death. That's an explicit version of the death cult.
Yeah, maybe live
extinctionist
long
cult.
and die out.
It's not. The extinction is a word he uses.
Yes.
No, I mean, it's not it's literally a self-description.
Did they cover him
death cult
glowingly?
was in charge of social media.
Yeah.
And still largely is at Google and Facebook, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not in favor of human extinction. They are.
That in that article, by the way, it says Tucker Carlson criticized that individual you just saw for espousing the sickest of beliefs, and then added, "You were one of the cheeriest guests we've ever had." Okay, it's a weird comparison there. Anyway, that Mr. Knight guy is 75. He's the founder of the Voluntary Human Extinction Movement, which is less of a movement than a loose consortium of people who believe the best thing humans can do is stop having children. Okay, so it's not like suicide. It's stop having children. Mr. Knight added the word voluntary decades ago to make it clear that they don't support mass murder or forced birth control. Okay, it is a little wild. Okay, overpopulation is the main factor in the climate crisis. See, that's the argument, is that they're making the argument that humans are the primary cause. But again, that's a problematic argument. Even the New York Times here is saying that idea can be fraught with problems. There are countries that are heavily overpopulated that contribute relatively low per capita to the greenhouse gas emissions. Like, you look at India, whereas wealthy countries have relatively small populations generating most of the pollution, potentially driving global warming, blah, 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 blah. And this goes on. This is a pretty long NYT piece here, but it seems like even the New York Times is like, I don't know, man, this guy's a little kooky.
All right, and they can go to hell.
Well, that guy is.
Yeah, he can go to hell.
That guy seems silly.
Well,
would like to hang out with him, though. I would like to find out what makes him tick. I bet that guy is fascinating. This episode is brought to you by.
I mean, that's an interesting way to put it. Is like this guy probably would be an interesting person to chat to, just because it seems so wild and so out there. But that New York Times piece, if you want to see it, is New York Times. Earth now has 8 billion humans. This man wishes there were none. Obviously, if you want to watch every part that I'm not skipping around in of the Joe Rogan Experience, make sure to watch them on Spotify. And here we go.
Take environmentalism to an extreme, you start to view humanity as a plague on the surface of the earth, like a mold or something.
Right.
I'm going to fast forward some of this. It's a little boring.
International sort of AI safety conference later tonight, leaving in about 3 hours. I don't know, meet with the British Prime Minister, a number of other people. So you have to say, like, how could AI go wrong? Well, if AI gets
AI having control of nuclear weapons could mean AI goes wrong. AI having control of any kind of weapons or machine guns or turrets or tanks could go wrong. AI having control of the power grid could go wrong. Water grid could go wrong, like the chemical balances in your water. Manufacturing processes, chemicals in your Pepsi or your Coca-Cola or whatever, that could go wrong. AI doing calculations for anesthesia could go wrong. Like, how could AI go wrong? How could AI not go wrong?
programmed by the extinctionists, its utility function will be the extinction of humanity.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, particularly if
they won't even think it's bad, like that guy.
Right. Yeah. If you let
it's
AI,
messed up.
There's a lot of decisions that AI would make that would be very similar to eugenics. I mean, there would be some radical changes in what people are allowed to and not allowed to do that allow them to survive, that may be detrimental in terms of like pollution and things like that, but it may be the only solution they have in their area. I mean, maybe AI would come up with some sort of a different structure in terms of how they get power and resources, but
there's no shortage of power. Like we talked about solar power for cars. The issue is that cars just have a very low surface area. But you could actually power the entire United States with 100 miles by 100 miles of solar.
Really?
Yes.
So you could just pick some dead spot that you fly over.
Of which there are plenty.
That's been joked about before, by the way, as Elon's put up a map on Twitter of like Africa, and he's like, here's the size of Africa, and it's like this tiny little square that we would need to power the whole world.
Cover that sucker up with solar panels and charge the whole country.
Absolutely.
24/7.
We need batteries, but yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's not hard. Meaning it's very feasible. In fact, the sun is converting over 4 million tons of mass to energy every second. And it's no maintenance. That thing just works. We're a giant fusion reactor in the sky. That is the sun. In fact, someone's like, well, what about radiation? I'm like, the sun is literally a nuclear reactor in the sky.
Yeah.
Are you scared to go in daylight?
Rocks have radiation.
Yes.
Yeah.
The radiation risk is greatly overestimated. I
always wonder why radiation is always bad in real life, but always awesome in comic books.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Like
get bitten by
when I grew up, it was always your computer screens have too much radiation.
Radioactive spider, and suddenly you have spider abilities.
Get hit with gamma rays, you become the Hulk.
What if you're radioactive cockroach? You'd be like the cockroach man.
Yeah, you can be one of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the problem is, like, most people just don't understand what radiation is. And so it just sounds like a mysterious, invisible death ray.
Well, it's almost like drugs. Like, we think of it, we put a blanket over it. Like, it's all one thing. Radiation is Chernobyl.
Right. I mean, the things you can actually tour Chernobyl right now. So
can you really?
Yes.
You can actually go to where the meltdown
Well, I
is?
mean, there's a war zone, but
Close
apart
enough?
from that, the issue is, more getting shot than it is. You don't have a radiation risk. The problem is, like, I think when people don't understand what radiation is.
That is actually interesting. Chernobyl tour, eye-opening experience of the post-apocalyptic world. Keep in mind that Chernobyl zone will be temporarily closed starting February 19th, 2022, obviously, because they may have had some some issues. They're calling the official explanation is due to technical reasons, though obviously it's the Russian invasion over there. But yeah, the Chernobyl tour gives you an experience dating back to 1986, the very first months of the Chernobyl accidents. You can experience the disaster mitigation, research success story, research unit, radiation safety, special scenarios for all tours, thematic tours, breathtaking bird's view of the zone in the Chernobyl air tour, unique tour program on demand for the most inquiring minds, charitable support. They literally turned it into a museum. That's crazy. Quest in Chernobyl. Private tours cost $88 per person. And that could include dinner and your tour passport. That's actually crazy. I did not know that. Wow. Everything's capitalism.
Is they can't see it, they can't feel it. They think, well, I could just die at any moment, like from a magic death ray.
Right.
You know, I've had people say like, oh, the radiation from their phone is going to hurt them, or they're scared of the microwave. I'm like, when you say radiation, do you mean particles or photons? And if you mean photons, what wavelength? And then like, I don't know what you mean. They don't know anything about that.
Right. They just have, they're afraid of the term. But
Yes.
it's because
That's actually interesting because think about like nuclear radiation. You wear like one of those hazmat suits, you wash that nuclear radiation off because those are particles, radioactive, apparently ionized particles, whether that's from like uranium or plutonium or whatever, as opposed to like infrared radiation. Like when you sit next to a campfire, the heat you feel is infrared radiation. That's why we could see it with infrared cameras and glows, right? That's infrared radiation, but you don't stand next to that and actually get burned unless you touch it. You just feel warm. But if you go out in the sun on a cold day, you could get sunburned by ultraviolet radiation, even when it's not hot. That's because you don't feel UV radiation. You feel infrared radiation. Really, actually kind of interesting.
because of 3 Mile Island and Fukushima, we've been
Yeah, but nobody died of radiation from Fukushima.
True.
Not one person.
true.
In fact, but I was asked by people in California, like when Fukushima happened, whether the radiation would get to California. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And so, actually, to help support Japan, I flew to Fukushima and ate locally grown vegetables on TV, and I'm still alive.
I have a friend. He's very smart, but he won't.
Tesla shareholders love hearing that. Not. First of all, like, I think that's so cool that he's demonstrating that he went to Japan to support Japan. But if you actually ingested some lower dose of radioactive particles, it'd probably take like 30 years for you to get cancer. So it might shorten the end of your life, not your current life. So as an investor in Tesla, I don't know if some of these decisions are necessarily aligned with longevity.
Eat fish out of the Pacific because he's worried about the radiation from Fukushima.
Yeah, that's irrational. There is no physics substance to that. I would say, at all, not even slightly.
I'm gonna send him this clip.
Yes.
Go back to the sushi place, bro.
No, you should be. If you eat too much tuna, you're gonna have
Mercury.
Yes, correct. Mercury
Yeah.
poisoning from tuna is a real thing.
You can get arsenic from sardines too. I found that out the hard way.
Really?
Yeah.
Ate too many sardines?
Yeah, I got my blood work done, and the doctor says you have arsenic in your blood. And I go, someone poisoning me? He goes, no, it's very, very low level.
It's like is your girlfriend angry at you?
He goes, do you eat a lot of
situations
fish?
like that.
And I said, yeah, I eat like 3 cans of sardines a night.
That's a lot of sardines, man.
Yeah, I love sardines.
I mean, yeah,
I love them.
You
I really do.
sardines.
I've always loved sardines.
Okay,
I love them.
but turns out like you can't eat too much of it because
They're not good for you.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, a little sardines once in a while, but not 3 cans a night.
Well, for me, it's like I come home late from the comedy club, and I want something easy to eat, and I don't want to
So
stop
open a
and
can
get
of sardines.
fast food. So I open up a few cans of sardines. And I'll, watch a little TV, eat a few cans of sardines. I was doing it every night, and then I stopped doing it, and I got my blood work done a couple months later. It was gone.
Yeah.
So
Well,
don't eat
I
too many
think
sardines.
anchovies really pep up a Caesar salad.
Yeah, they do.
All right, we're gonna jump ahead on the sardine talk. It's interesting. I wouldn't think that 3 cans of sardines a night would do that. Wow. I also don't eat sardines. I don't like the really salty things, nor do I like pickles.
Some right now. Is that feasible?
I bet we could.
Okay, let's try it. That'd be sick.
Sardines?
I like it.
Hawaiian's good,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you, anchovies and pineapple is the bomb diggity. That's the bomb
Okay,
diggity.
I'll give it a shot.
That's the bomb diggity.
Hey, wait, can we order some right now? Is that feasible?
I bet we could.
Okay, let's try it. That'd be sick.
Yeah.
Okay, ordering anchovies and
Well,
pineapple.
there's got to be a good.
Don't tell him it's.
Make sure you don't buy it from any liberals.
While I see someone paranoid, I'm
what
like,
did he say?
Don't buy it from East Austin.
salty sauce. That's so mysterious.
Yeah. Oh no! Right? Don't tell them it's us. Good call. Yeah, don't tell them it's us. Make sure you don't buy it from any liberals.
What is the salty tangy
Liberals.
substance?
Don't buy it from East Austin.
East Austin. Oh man. Okay, just so you know, the west part of Austin, like where the hillside is. First of all, the western part of Austin, so closer to California, right? That side west, the west. That's where your expensive hillsides are. So you have your expensive hillside, you have cut lots into the hills, you have less foundation issues. The east side is actually where Giga Austin is. They have foundation problems, a lot more foundation problems on the east side. Property values are a lot lower. They're building more towards that side, but you have more foundation issues. So you have to do more soil prep, lower property values. You go, as soon as you go east out of downtown, it kind of turns into like a lot more homeless concentration. And ouch, dang. That's Joe's not holding back here on his opinion.
Don't buy from anyone who's still working. You look like you're about 28 years old.
Yeah.
I think you're going to be okay.
Be okay, yeah.
You're probably not going to be okay breathing that fucking same air in that mask and all the bacteria you're spitting out.
Oh,
Yeah.
not this
Attaching
again.
to that
All right,
cloth.
keep going.
I'd say like a mask is much like a sort of a shield in battle in that, it'll help protect you a little bit from arrows and stuff, but doesn't make you arrow proof. We're just talking about shooting arrows and stuff.
Right. There's
Okay, that was very interesting. Now, I jumped around a little bit there, but Elon Musk basically just countered Joe Rogan, because Joe Rogan's like, oh, masks are bullshit. You're breathing the same germs over and over again. And Elon's like, well, they're kind of like a shield. In other words, they have a use. And he's not wrong. They have a use. I mean, like when you paint cars, you wear a P100 aerosol respirator. That makes sense. That has a purpose. It actually has an exhaust vent so you can breathe out the dirty air and breathe in clean air, right? So there are functions to masks.
I mean, there are times when masks are warranted, but most of the time it's actually counterproductive.
Well, that was one of the things about the old Twitter was the propaganda and the adherence to whatever the CDC was saying and the dismissing of legitimate scientists, guys like Jay Bhattacharya from Stanford and legit guys.
Yes.
And they were suppressing them and even banning them. They banned Alex Berenson. I mean, it was wild. They banned Alex for essentially reading peer-reviewed papers.
Yeah. No, I mean, all Twitter was basically an arm of the government.
Yeah.
So
was that shocking? Like,
okay, that's extreme. Look, the Twitter files were a problem. Completely. I covered the Twitter files, but saying all of Twitter was an arm of the government. Oh man. Like, I don't know, man. I get the whole bad apple argument, but that's like saying the whole basket was bad. I don't know. I disagree with that.
Like, what was that like? Because that, to me, that was the most bizarre, was the Twitter files. When you let Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi and all those guys get in the Twitter, and the response where Matt Taibbi gets audited. I mean, which is just wild. I mean, it's just so blatant and so in your face.
Yeah, it's weird. No, I mean, the degree to which, and by the way, Jack didn't really know this, but the degree to which Twitter was simply an arm of the government was not well understood by the public, and it was whatever the official government. I mean, it was like Pravda, basically.
It's a really good point. Farmer Brett says that's the part about Joe Rogan that people like. He doesn't hold anything back. He has an opinion. He says it. He doesn't try to play the fence. That's true. It's a great thing. I'm trying to be more like that myself. I think it's admirable. It's like, if you think it, say it. It's like, You don't have to agree with everything somebody says. Like, totally fair.
A state publication is the way to think of old Twitter. It's a state publication.
And was the justification from their perspective that they are progressive liberals, they have the right intentions, it's important that they stay in power, the progressive liberals stay in government and power, because this is their...
There was basically oppression of any views that would even, I would say, be considered middle of the road. But certainly anything on the right. I'm not talking about like far right. I'm just talking mildly right. The people like Republicans were suppressed at 10 times the rate of Democrats. Now that's because old Twitter was fundamentally controlled by the far left. It was like completely controlled by the far left, and that's why I say like like San Francisco, Berkeley is a niche ideology. It's hard to say like, is there a place that's more far left than San Francisco, Berkeley?
Maybe Portland,
but it's like it's
right there.
It's like it's those two places are the most far left places in America.
Yes.
So from their standpoint, everything is to the right, including moderates.
Right.
So that now, if you internalize a far left position, everything seems wrong to you that is not far left.
Right.
And so they naturally oppressed anything that didn't agree with their views. That's why I say that it was an accidental far left information weapon.
You know, I just wonder though, like, and I'm going to go, this is extreme, maybe, I don't know if it's extreme. Is it possible that if you are, let's take this away from politics for a moment, but still the same principle. If you're somebody who's bullish on the economy on Twitter and everybody else is a bear, and therefore you don't get retweets and likes, you're being suppressed. You say one thing bearish, that gets promoted. Is that not to some extent a form of censoring, thanks to the algorithm essentially doing what most of the people are amplifying, right? If most of the people on the platform are amplifying one thing, maybe previously that was more left, now maybe it's more, right or more bearish or whatever, then is that how you get a depressed Elon? I don't know.
So because it's like Silicon Valley attracts the smartest engineers, the smartest sort of technologists and programmers from around the world. They created an information weapon that was then harnessed by the far left, who could not themselves create the weapon, but happened to be co-located where the technologists were.
It happened to be aligned politically with the people that possessed it.
The technologists generally are moderate, maybe moderate left, but they're not far left. That's why I say San Francisco, Berkeley. It doesn't even extend to South San Francisco or even to Palo Alto. So
Palo Alto, that's where a lot of the wealthy folks are going right now. They flee San Francisco and they've gone south to Palo Alto. It is gorgeous there. I mean, it is so nice. Like, I would move there in a heartbeat, but I do like the SoCal weather better, so I'd probably go to San Diego first. SF
Berkeley is the most far left, perhaps in a competition with Portland, but I'd say SF Berkeley is more far left even than Portland. Right, like literally in America, we're talking about an area that's maybe and be co-located with the technologists who created it by accident.
Is it shocking that more people don't understand how dangerous that is?
Echo
I think
chamber.
some people understand.
Some people do.
Some people understand. So, I mean, from the standpoint of some of the people who used to be at Twitter, the people were like, well, it's a big shift to the right. That is correct. It is a shift to the right because everything is to the right if you're far left. Everything is to the right. But how many far left people have actually been suspended or banned from Twitter, now X? 0. So it's really just moved to the center, but from the perspective of the...
Enough of this. I'm going to fast forward. Keep in mind the HouseHack fundraise expires November 1st. That's tomorrow night. So if you have a question, email us today at ir@househack.com or go to househack.com, read the offering circular to read that solicitation. This can't be a solicitation to learn more. But it's my real estate startup, and I'm really excited to bring it to y'all. Let's keep going here.
Of humanity. So now that means that there are going to be views on there that you don't like or disagree with.
We've heard
Um,
this.
But that's humanity. So are you going to exclude them or not? Now, I mean, if somebody, breaks the law, then the account is suspended. I mean, if they actively advocate murder, then the account is suspended. We do have what we call like the kind of United Nations exclusion rule, which is that you can have, say, the Ayatollah, who, would prefer that Israel didn't exist, for example. But he's allowed to go to the UN building in New York. In fact, generally officials from Iran do in fact go to the UN building in New York, even though they're a heavily sanctioned country. So I think that there's merit to having, just like there's some merit to the UN. One can disagree with the UN, and I think we shouldn't have a world government that we bow down to. But in fact, that's risky for civilization. But I think you do want to have the leaders of countries.
Is that like a Trump argument? Like, hey, we're gonna stop funding parts of the UN. We don't like it.
Represented on social media. You want to hear what they have to say, even if what they say is terrible.
But I think that is true across the board. And I think one of the things you just said that's very important is that's humanity. And I think it's important that a social media platform, especially the biggest one, represents humanity. So we understand what we're talking about. Because we have this distorted idea of what people think and want and need, because everyone only exists inside this ideological bubble, and anything outside of that bubble gets censored.
Yes.
Then that literally changes the tone of the entire country.
Yes.
Changes what people think is okay and not
Correct.
okay, makes people feel differently.
Yes.
It's not humanity. It's different. It's a very forced version of humanity.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the whole point of free speech, free speech is only relevant. The First Amendment is only relevant if you allow people you don't like to say things you don't like.
Yeah, I mean, there's a Supreme Court argument that your right to free speech is just like your right to throw a punch. You can throw a punch to the extent that it stops before the place where my face begins. Kind of interesting.
Because if you like it, you don't need a First Amendment. So the whole point of free speech is that, frankly, even people you hate say things you hate. Because if people you hate can say things that you hate, that means that they can't stop you from saying what you want to say.
Right.
Which is very, very important.
Right. But the problem with Twitter is it was not the case. It was
correct.
It was people that you hate couldn't say.
Anyone they didn't like, they censored.
Yeah.
Or what's called de-amplify.
No, well, not just de-amplify, but under the behest of the government would suppress real news, which was very bizarre.
Yes.
So they were very aware of something being.
This is specifically referring, I believe, to the Hunter Biden laptop story, which was this awareness. I don't know that. It's kind of tough because Joe Rogan just put together a long string there. He said they would suppress things they knew were real news. Well, the news companies know today the Hunter Biden story was real news. But then they were lied to by the government and told that it was like Russian disinformation and that it was their duty to censor it. And that's where you started having all this blurriness and this mess. And don't get me wrong, I'm not taking the side of censoring. It's kind of like, okay, well, like, should you have the right to post your Russian disinformation if that truly is what it is, just to be an extreme argument, right? But I'm pretty sure that's what he's referring to. Although we should add, there's a lot more nuance to what happened. Ultimately, what happened, though, was wrong, and it was censorship. And I'm glad that there's now clarity in that, because it's kind of messy that the government can do that and, call up the news companies and go, oh, don't cover this because we don't want you to. It's fake news. And then news companies like, oh, okay, I guess the government's forcing us to do that, right? Like that should not happen. Media companies should be free of that sort of government intervention, but they're not. Even when I ran for governor in California, news companies would censor or not cover our campaign because that would mean the governor of California wouldn't invite them back to one of their events. Had that happen many times. I had a reporter get thrown out of an event that I was in with them because I was there and they were mad because the event was trying to support Gavin Newsom. So they kicked out not just me, but the reporter. It's crazy.
Accurate, and they still suppressed it because the government wanted them to suppress it.
I mean, in my view, there have been severe First Amendment violations by multiple government agencies,
Yes,
and there should be
100% agree.
repercussions for that.
And is it do different laws apply because it's a privately owned social media company? I mean, what laws do apply in terms of, like, when you're looking at it?
If the
One of
government
the arguments that the leftists would use is it's a private company; they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, it's funny that when the shoe's on the other foot, they now say the private company can't do whatever it wants.
Well, yeah, now they're upset.
No, it's like, but the government itself is not allowed to censor speech. But in my view, the government de facto did censor a speech, and there should at least be a case where that is heard by the public. Because if the government severely coerces, a platform, a sort of coerces the press, then I think that is or should be a First Amendment violation.
Well, they can't do it with other media forms, right? They're not allowed to do it with any other. They're not
Right.
allowed.
If they try to do that with a newspaper, that
Right.
get in trouble.
Or would they? That's the question. It's like, you didn't know about the federal government. You didn't know about the intelligence agencies inside of Twitter until we found out. Like, do you think that this is ubiquitous? Is this
It's absolutely all the social media companies. In fact, right now, X, or formerly known as Twitter, is the only one that is not kowtowing to the government. It's the only one. There isn't. All the others just do exactly what the government wants.
That is wild.
Yes.
What I was getting at, do you think that that's everywhere?
Yes.
Do you think that that's CNN? Do you think that that's the New York Times? Do you think that that's the Washington Post? Because if they were going to infiltrate media, if they were going to infiltrate social media.
I mean, it is weird the degree to which the media is in lockstep. Like, why is the media in lockstep? And why doesn't the media question the government? They used to.
Right.
Why don't they do that anymore? Seems weird. Something doesn't add up.
What do you think? Well, there seems like there's a bunch of factors, right? I think one of the big factors is pharmaceutical drug companies allowed to advertise on television. And we're one of 2 countries in the world that allow that.
I actually agree with pharmaceutical advertising, provided it is truthful. Because there could be some drug that is helpful to someone, but obviously the claims need.
I think that's a really fair argument. Like, Lauren sometimes has eczema outbreaks, and it's nice to have good medicine for that. And through, I don't know where it was, one of us saw an ad or something for this certain drug. I forgot what it's called these days, but there's some like shot you could take every couple weeks or whatever. It's actually been out for like 5 years or something like that. And it's been like a total game changer for her. And so it's wonderful. It's been out for, I don't know, maybe closer to like 8 years. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, let's see what Elon says here.
Need to be accurate. So I actually think pharmaceutical advertising, if it is accurate, I think it actually, play devil's advocate here, I think pharmaceutical advertising is generally accurate.
Wait a minute. Is Elon supporting advertising? Ho.
I think that's actually okay. Now I should say that a lot of the censorship that we see is coming from indirectly from advertisers and advertising agencies, and from PR companies, who want a particular viewpoint pushed, or are being driven by nonprofits to push a particular. Like what will happen is there'll be a sort of a group of nonprofits or that push advertisers to advertise or not advertise on a particular platform. One often hears of the sort of George Soros boogeyman, but I mean, Soros actually, he is, I believe, the top contributor to the Democratic Party. The second one was Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah.
So, and Soros, I don't know. I mean, he had a very difficult upbringing, and in my opinion, he fundamentally hates humanity. That's my opinion.
Oh,
really?
Yeah. I mean, well, he's doing things that erode the fabric of civilization. getting DAs elected who refuse to prosecute crime. That's part of the problem in San Francisco and LA and a bunch of other cities. So why would you do that?
Was it humanity, or is it just the United States as a whole? I mean,
He's pushing things in other countries too, not
doing
just
the
here.
same thing.
Yeah. Now, George at this point is pretty old. I mean, he's not, he's basically a bit senile at this point. But I mean, he's very smart. And he's very good at arbitrage. Famously, he shorted the British pound. That's sort of how I think he made his first money, was shorting the pound. So he's good at spotting, basically arbitrage, like spotting value for money that other people don't see. So one of the things he noticed was that that the value for money in local races is much higher than it is in national races. So the lowest value for money is a presidential race.
That's really interesting. I want to keep going on that idea, this value per donation, basically. Worth noting, George Soros has an $8.6 billion approximately net worth. He's a huge donor. He is 93. He's considered one of the most generous givers. That is exactly what Sam Bankman-Fried was described as well. One of the most charitable people. Sam Bankman-Fried rumored to have gotten rid of his fancy sports cars to downgrade to a Toyota Corolla or whatever it was to look more charitable. Anyway, he started a hedge fund in the 70s known as the Quantum Fund. Apparently started with $12 million. After 53 years of compounded interest, probably worked out to somewhere around 13 to 15% average returns. So slightly less successful than like a Buffett around 17%, but still pretty dang impressive. He's obviously an open progressive and liberal, donates frequently to democratic causes. It's super, super common, though, for people on the right side to characterize George Soros as basically being the person who's behind everything, like the master behind the puppet, so to speak. How much of that is actually true? Who really knows? But, Elon certainly holds back zero when talking about this guy.
Then next lowest value for money is a Senate race, then a Congress, and but once you get to sort of city and state district attorneys, the value for money is extremely good. And Soros realized that you don't actually need to change the laws; you just need to change how they're enforced. If nobody chooses to enforce the law, or the laws are differentially enforced, it's like changing the laws. That's what he figured out.
But is what's stunning that this trend.
That's probably not highly untrue, by the way. If you have everyone in your pocket because you're donating to them.
That people haven't pulled the brakes on this and have it reverse course.
I'm pulling the brakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pulling the brakes right now.
Yeah, you are. But you might be the only one.
Well, I think more people should. Most people just don't want to rock the boat. Most people are looking for acceptance from society, and they're if there's some negative press article, they're like shattered. I couldn't give a damn.
Right.
Go ahead, make my day.
Well, it's fascinating where if you're a high-profile public figure like yourself, it's impossible to make everybody happy. So there's going to be someone who says something shitty about you.
Yeah.
Somehow or another, when it's in print, does that mean more? Because other people are going to see this shitty thing?
Well, I guess
where it gets odd. Because essentially an article in the New York Times is just a single person's opinion, and whatever editor gets involved.
It's just a lot of people will read that. Yeah. I mean, less people these days.
But I think people know that now. People know that.
I find the New York Times these days to be hard to read.
Well, unfortunately, they make some grave errors.
Yeah,
like that Hamas bombing the Israeli bombing the hospital story. Yes,
that was AP, and that's, in fairness, that was the Associated Press, not New York Times. I know it's really fun to jump on, just like bag on the NYT. I'm gonna fact check myself on that, but I'm pretty sure that was the Associated Press.
It's delicious. I mean,
I think we should cut off Chick-fil-A exports. That'll bring them to the knees right away. What do you do? Take a chip and dip it in nothing?
What we need to do is introduce them to pineapple and anchovy pizza. They will have
I hope,
no use for
I hope
hummus
that's
anymore.
coming. That'd be
Is that coming? Do we have a pizza name, like a company?
I'll get some information.
I want to make
Is this
sure it's
real?
a good one, though.
Pizza Leon.
All right. Well, if they're going to talk about that, we'll find out really quick. Visual investigation conducted by the Wall Street Journal strongly supported the Israeli interpretation, while investigations by the AP and CNN originally backed it. I'm trying to understand. Let me read the rest of this correctly. Well, I'll fast forward on this pizza discussion. I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
Oh, that's legit.
It's pretty close.
Okay,
It's pretty good.
there we go. Nice. Did they give us a timeline?
I'd imagine it shouldn't take too long. They're
One pineapple.
Fast forward the pizza discussion.
So part of it is that, like, that I kind of saw a dress rehearsal, which is that, you know, I kind of started in Wuhan. And so Tesla's got 20,000 employees in China. And so the first wave happened in China, and we had nobody died or got seriously ill. I was like, okay, well, like, this is, can't be that bad. And we're not relying on government statistics. We literally know who showed up for work.
Right.
Did they badge in or not? And we had no one die and no one got seriously ill. So I'm like, well, I don't know what the big deal is.
Well, there's a problem that people still want to stick to this initial narrative that they believed and that they espoused. They repeated it. And so they'll still fight you on this today. People still fight you today on the merits of the lockdowns, the importance of vaccine mandates, closing schools. There's people that stated an opinion in 2020, and they still are doing mental gymnastics to try to make it seem like that was the right choice.
No, it was just a panic.
Yeah.
And a lot of deaths got ascribed to COVID that had nothing to do with COVID. And in fact, I'd say in the beginning, the cure is worse than the disease. So, because people panic too much. And so that somebody would
remember how much Elon was freaking out about the shutdowns of the Fremont facility in NorCal. He basically was willing to get arrested on the line to make sure his factory was able to be open. That I admired.
Get diagnosed with COVID. They put them on intubated ventilator for a week, and this was going to basically cook your lungs. So if you're on pure O2 under pressure with a tube stuck down your throat and under anesthetic, this is very bad for you.
Joe Rogan was correct. My bad. I thought it was an AP error. It was a Times error. Good call out by Joe Rogan then. I was wrong.
Like, it's one thing if you do that for a couple hours for an operation, but you do that for a week, it's gonna roast your lungs. Like the air that we're breathing right now is 78% nitrogen, 1% argon, about 21% oxygen, and some miscellaneous. So if you ask most people, what are you breathing? They say oxygen. No, you're breathing nitrogen. Only about a fifth of it is oxygen, and there's about 1% argon. Now I know quite a lot about life support systems because we make spaceships, and you have to keep people alive in a vacuum. So you got to say, okay, what percentage nitrogen, what percentage oxygen you can do, what's the pressure going to be? So like sea level pressure is about 15 pounds per square inch. And the partial pressure of oxygen at 20% is therefore roughly 3 pounds per square inch of oxygen. So in a spacecraft, you want a PSI. What it takes to keep people alive. So you don't want to be people, 100% oxygen. It's actually for an extended period of time.
All right.
In regards to the vaccine on YouTube,
as I said, the only media that is not does not have crazy censorship at this point is X.
Yeah.
Ooh, pitch for X. Let's quickly get the bell, by the way. Closing bell. And then we'll go back to that.
Low in late May, so it's trying to make that sort of stick as a potential floor. All right, we got a big day tomorrow. I look forward to spending it with you as well. There's the bell. We'll go out in the green. I'll see you tomorrow into OT now with John Ford.
Somebody messed up the bell again. I love it when they do that. Anyway, Tesla up 1.76. All right, let's keep going to what we've got with good old Joe Rogan. Let's keep going here. That is, by the way, so far pretty good. I'd have to say pretty impressive so far. And about an hour 9 minutes in, probably got about another hour depending on how much skipping around we do. But once again, market doing decently here. So 1 second here as I get back to Elon.
That I'm aware of. Everyone else either everything else is censored.
Spotify isn't. That's why this can.
Good
can have
for
this
Daniel Ek.
Oh, Daniel Ek's the man.
Yeah, he's great.
I love that dude. And I think more companies should follow suit. I don't think it has to be this way. Fortunately for us, they're in Sweden, in Stockholm, Sweden. They have a very different perspective.
You got a syndrome
on all this shit. Yeah. What's wild about the nitrogen is that that's most of the nitrogen from fertilizer we suck out of the air.
Sorry, what do you mean?
Most of the nitrogen for fertilizer we suck out of the air.
Yeah. It's one of the big inventions in chemistry was binding nitrogen. Nitrogen is actually fairly inert, so it's quite hard to actually pull nitrogen out of there and bind it by the atmosphere. And you'd actually want kind of global warming on Mars. Because Mars is about 50% further away from the sun than the Earth. So it gets about less than half the solar energy that Earth does.
And it's believed at one point in time, Mars had a much different environment, right?
It appears highly likely that Mars had liquid oceans, albeit a long time ago. There's a lot of ice. So Mars is covered in ice. And now the ice is then covered in dust for the mostly, except at the poles.
Quick note on Tesla, since a lot of Tesla folks are here. Tesla convinced a jury that its autopilot technology was not responsible for a crash that killed a driver in California 4 years ago. It took 4 years to fight this $400 million lawsuit. Wow, that's crazy. And Tesla found not responsible for that, where a Model 3 veered off a freeway in SoCal, slamming into a tree and bursting into a flame. Lawyers representing crash survivors, because somebody did die, and I think the driver died. Yeah, it was the driver that died. Lawyers representing crash survivors in the car argued that a manufacturing defect in autopilot caused the crash by causing the car to sharply swerve off the road. The company contended Lee had been drinking alcohol before he got behind the wheel, and that there was no evidence he had activated autopilot. The 12-member jury reached a verdict in its fourth day of deliberations. 4 days of deliberations. Lawyers for Tesla claimed classic human error caused the accident. They showed jurors a video clip of testimony by the passenger who recalled that Lee consumed a drink and he had some wine while they were having dinner in downtown Disney in Anaheim earlier that evening. An attorney representing the survivors points blame at Tesla. They said it led it to swerve out of the way. Tesla's attorney said the claims were full of hot air and aren't backed by evidence. We know the only way the car steers to 43 degrees in this time is Mr. Lee or somebody else in that car played a role in turning the steering wheel. Tesla says it's not Tesla's fault. Obviously feel bad that somebody died, but the car doesn't turn the steering wheel 43 degrees for no reason. Or at all, I guess. All right, I guess unless you're like U-turning or something. Jeez. And then here we go.
There's a lot of ice. In fact, I believe if Mars was warmed up, you'd have an ocean about a mile deep on 40% of the planet.
Wow.
So it's quite a lot of water.
And do we think that it was like that at one point in time?
The evidence suggests that it is most likely that Mars had liquid water.
What's the prevailing theory of its demise?
Well, just over time, the solar system.
Great question by Joe, because if they had water and Mars is colder than the Earth, then where's the water today? That's really interesting. Think about that for a moment. Like, what if there was water, then where is it now? See, at a high, the temperature on Mars is 70 degrees. That's like SoCal weather all year round. But at low, it's negative 225 degrees. So most of the time, on average, the surface temperature is negative 80, according to space.com. Most of the time, if there is water, it should have been frozen.
Them cooled. So Earth used to be much hot. Like in the very early Earth was like molten rock. So really almost nothing could survive in the beginning. We were just a ball of lava. We're still mostly a ball of lava. We're like creme brulee. Like there's a thin crust, and it's mushy rock under very hot mushy rock underneath. And technically that rock is in a semi-solid state, but as soon as it gets to a low pressure, like pops out of the ocean, you have a volcano, obviously, with lava.
Yeah.
So it's at surface ambient pressure.
Max says, Elon said it's frozen by Mars dust. That would make sense.
It's a thin crust on liquid rock.
Are you aware of the origin myth of the Dogon tribe?
No.
There's a tribe I believe it's a tribe I forget what part of Africa, but they believe that they came from Mars and that there was a civilization that left Mars, many, many eons ago. And it's a really weird, theory because they know some things about Mars.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't come from Mars.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure too. But I mean, it's.
Do they have any spaceships? If they don't have any spaceships, then I'm like, I don't believe it.
Well,
if you do have a spaceship, I'll believe it.
If you parked a spaceship, how many thousands of years? You parked a metal spaceship. Like if you left a Cybertruck in the desert.
Wow, hold on a second. Good call here, Scott. Apparently, at a lower pressure, water boils at lower temperatures, and so you're actually looking at 40.9 degrees Fahrenheit to boil water on Mars. And the temperature usually averages negative 80 Fahrenheit, but goes up to about negative or positive 70. So I guess that would boil water. Wow.
How many thousands of years do you think it would be there for before it's gone?
If it got buried in dirt, we'd find it even like a million years from now.
A million?
Yeah.
Wow. Really?
Well, what you'd find
is
stainless
steel. So it'd have to be some sort of an alloy.
It's kind of like
but iron wouldn't, right?
Yeah, but you'd have something similar to like fossils, basically. Like the fossils.
Oh, okay.
They essentially discolor the rock. So eventually, whatever the fossil is, and sometimes the fossils like an amber or something like that. That's where it still does survive more or less intact. But I mean, there's fossilized like dinosaur fossils and tree fossils. That
essentially remineralized, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd see like a Cybertruck shape in the rock, basically.
Yeah, but that's it. You wouldn't find the actual Cybertruck. So if they did have a spaceship and it came here 30,000 years ago.
Oh yeah, we'd definitely find evidence of it.
Well,
if it was one spaceship. Maybe not, but if it was a lot of them, sure.
That is the origin myth of the Dogon tribe, right? Am I getting that right?
Mars specifically, it's a hidden star in the series.
All right, honestly, this is a little boring. I don't even know. Sorry, I'm gonna fast forward.
You're correct.
We'll watch AMD earnings in a moment too.
By comet impacts.
Okay.
And that is the reason why they keep finding these insanely old, huge structures, megalithic structures that are carved out of stone. Like when you go back to like Göbekli Tepe, which is 11,600 years ago.
Okay.
That's an insanely old structure that they didn't even know people were capable of building until they discovered it in the 1990s. So the conventional timeline of people when you go to 11,600 years ago was just hunter-gatherers. But now that they have Göbekli Tepe with its 3D carved things. And have you seen Graham Hancock's amazing series on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse?
No.
You should check it out. It's amazing. But it's about that. It's all about that there's a lot of physical evidence of an advanced civilization from far
this is not that fun so far.
Forest. And it receded into what it is now. But if you go back then, he believes that's when that thing was constructed. And he says the physical
Okay, this is all speculation. So here's their food. Congratulations.
And it's is there like, what's his favorite piece of joint?
Oh, the favorite one. Everyone wants to know that.
It's always cheese.
Yeah. We spend so much time on pizza.
And it's New Haven.
Pizza.
Don't you think I know what I'm doing? I'm ordering it.
Oh my God.
Try it?
It's not my.
Come on.
No, it's not in Austin proper. I think once his contract is up, he had a non-compete in Austin for like 3 years or something. I don't know how long it was.
Okay.
But maybe eventually he'll open up one in Austin, but it's about 30 minutes outside of it. What
Decent places, whatever.
They're fucking amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. I don't even know.
Here.
Out here.
We've got the Starlink terminal factory. So we, for the Starlink V4 terminals, we build them here. We built the version 3 terminals and the version 3 minis. There's like we do part of the production, or actually, I should say, we've done all of the production of the terminals thus far in LA, and we'll continue to do production in LA. But we've just completed a second factory in Bastrop, just about 20 minutes from here.
And then SpaceX is where you make the launches. What part of Texas is that?
Well, the Starship stuff is in South Texas, near the border, just right on the Rio Grande.
And how did you pick that location?
I was just literally looking at satellite images,
So Google Maps, just looking at Google Maps for where you could launch a rocket where nobody else is around. Let me guess.
For going to orbit, you kind of you want to launch eastward so that you can take advantage of Earth rotation to get to orbit. So it's a little counterintuitive that reaching orbital velocity, getting to orbit is about your speed parallel to the Earth's surface. It's like, how fast are you zooming around Earth? It's not the gravity at the altitude of the space station is almost the same as it is on the ground. The reason the space station is actually up there, it's kind of the wrong terminology. It's actually moving around the Earth at 17,000 miles an hour. So the space station goes around the Earth at roughly every 90 minutes.
Wow.
So and because Earth is
that's really interesting. It almost makes you wonder if something's spinning around the Earth. Is it just the faster you spin, the further out you get? Interesting.
Turning, and the speed at which it is turning, or the way you experience velocity is it's moving at like roughly 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. So the closer you are to the equator, the more you can take advantage of Earth rotation to reach orbital velocity. So you want to, and since it's rotating eastward, you want to be on the east coast to get to make it easier to get to orbital velocity. So you need a section of coast that's on the east, fairly southward, that is not occupied. Like most of
that's interesting. They're not occupied by the water, not around people. The equator is just below Florida, which is kind of just the bottom of Florida is sort of in line roughly there with where they built. That's interesting.
Really, almost really all of Florida, except for Cape Canaveral, is wall-to-wall houses on the beach. Like there's almost no section of Florida that every section of Florida has houses, except for Cape Canaveral, which is a government base. So one of the few spots that wasn't occupied was the area just adjacent to the border with Mexico. It just wasn't super well suited to holiday homes. There was at one point a development that was going to take place, but then a hurricane came and destroyed the entire place, and in fact rearranged the land, so some of the plots were underwater. So it's kind of it's a tough spot to build a home, and that's why it was unoccupied. So we needed a piece of, and it needs to be U.S. territory, because if we go outside the U.S., there are export restrictions because rocket technology is an advanced weapons technology. So we can't just arbitrarily go to another country.
That makes sense. That has to be in the United States. By the way, things are obviously warmer around the equator. You actually get towards the equator, like Mexican beaches, they're a lot warmer. Like California beaches, ice cold. Florida, warm. Mexico, like really, really warm. Kind of interesting.
So it needed to be U.S. land, East Coast, and fairly southward.
That's fascinating. That rockets,
it's one of the few spots that exist like that.
That rockets fall into the category of weapons technology.
Yeah, intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, we could drop a rocket anywhere. Nobody can stop us.
Wow. That is crazy about the space station, too.
Yeah.
It's going 17,000 miles an hour.
AMD just reported expenses, R&D expenses came in a little high. Operating margin beat 40 basis points. Revenue came in 5.8 billion versus 5.7. That's a beat. Operating income 1.28 bill versus 1.27. Tiny little beat on the various different items for AMD.
An hour.
Yes. I mean, you've seen the videos of the rocket landing, right?
Yes. It's amazing.
Very
It's down 5%, in case you're wondering. That's your stock market for you.
precise.
It's pretty fucking amazing.
We could make land basically anywhere.
No.
Or not land.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, it doesn't have to turn on the thrusters to slow down.
What is it like to try to juggle these different things in your mind on a daily?
Also, I looked up the velocity thing a little bit more. So there's orbital velocity. It's like rotating around a circle. And then there's like, ground speed. So like an airplane's velocity, right? Because you can control your altitude in a plane. And you can go various different speeds at various different altitudes. But the faster you go in terms of an orbital velocity, the higher your altitude. Somebody in the comments was suggesting go look up the space elevator if you really wanted to be mind blown on some of that stuff. Maybe a time for a different or a topic for a different time.
Basis. Like, what is it like to try to juggle X, Tesla, SpaceX, all these different things at the same time?
It's a lot for a human brain to handle.
Yeah. I would imagine.
Yeah. It strains my meat computer.
I mean, do you need something like that, though? Does your meat computer need more problem solving than the average one? I mean, is this something like if you only had one thing to work on, do you think you would get bored or you would get distracted?
AMD Q4 revenue guide just missed pretty big, $300 million. Midpoint guide is 6.1 billion. Estimate was 6.4. So that guide's not that great. And of course, now it's only down 3 to 4% because the stock market makes sense.
Distracted, or you would not be satisfied? Like, do you need these things to be so complex and have so many of them simultaneously juggling? Because you didn't pick 3 easy ones. You picked 3 of the fucking hardest things you could ever get into. You already detailed how difficult manufacturing is. Rockets, duh. Yes. It's one of the craziest things. Like, not only that.
This is why people like Joe. That's great.
It's science.
Completely innovative rockets that land. Like that never happened before. So you're doing that.
Right.
And then you said, you know what? We've got to save humanity. Let me go spend 44 billion on Twitter.
Man, that was expensive.
What's it worth? What do you think it was actually worth?
Everything.
Yeah, not for the market. Right. I mean, like for humans, yes, I agree with you. I mean, I really genuinely do think this, and I've said this many times publicly. I think you did humanity an immense service, and that if that didn't happen, the narrative of this country would have gone further and further down that road to the point where people would have been scared to speak their mind, and they would have been scared. And it changes the way people communicate at their jobs, which changes the way it just changes the way people when they leave universities and they go to get jobs, the way they're allowed to communicate. And people don't like to be on the outside. They don't like to be ostracized. They don't like to be kicked out of communities. So people would adhere.
Yeah,
and they would change.
Absolutely. And people, I guess, are afraid of like being ostracized is like fear of being ostracized. I think is probably the biggest issue, and they're just being totally shut down.
Yeah,
where you have no outlet, and you can just basically disappear, except for in-person meetings. So, it was important to have at least one social media outlet that wasn't canceling people.
What I really enjoy is reading the tweets. I guess you still have to call them tweets reading
posts or whatever. I don't have a good word for it, but
yeah, you can't say the X's.
That's what pissed me off so much about the name change to X. Like, just let it be called Tweet. Literally, it's like such a brand, man. It's like buying Kleenex and then getting rid of the word Kleenex, or buying Xerox and getting rid of the word Xerox, or getting rid of the word Band-Aid for bandage. You know, like, it's such a valuable. Why would you do that? Whatever.
But reading the
all my exes live in Texas.
reading the words, or I should say,
Oh.
That's a good
I
song.
enjoy reading the words of people who proclaimed that they were leaving and going over to Threads.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing about momentum. Very difficult to start a whole new social media platform,
Yeah.
even one that initially got like what did Threads get? Like some crazy number of initial people signing up for it, but it just dropped off within like a couple of weeks. Now it's a fucking ghost town.
Yeah. It's like
Wild.
eerily quiet.
It's wild.
I mean, Zuck himself doesn't post, so
That's what's
you know.
crazy.
you gotta use your own product.
It's interesting though, because they're sneaking them in now in Instagram. They sneak
a little thread in there.
Because every now and then I'll see something. Oh, that's interesing, and I click on it. Oh, you motherfucker! And it
Trick
opens
me.
up Threads for me.
Yeah.
Like you got me, because they're they're integrated. But
All right, that's funny. Let's
Instagram.
wait for it a little bit.
Yeah, I think like they have to say, like, is Instagram a net happiness generator or not? I'm not sure it is.
Well, Twitter ain't.
speaking of distorted images,
Yeah.
have you seen the court artist's drawing of Sam Bankman-Fried?
I mean, it's almost like they lost money or something.
What the fuck?
Well, actually, what Joe Rogan is referring to is, let me see if I can find it. There's a clip or a drawing where they paint Carolyn Ellison as basically like this really like not attractive person at all, and Carolyn as and Sam Bankman-Fried as like somebody who is really attractive, and so people are like, what is this? Like, it's almost like Sam Bankman-Fried donated a lot of money to get a better drawing. Here's the Sam Bankman-Fried drawing. You can compare these back and forth. Sam Bankman-Fried, Sam Bankman-Fried, right? It's like they made him look like he had like the chiseled chin. They gave him this crazy hair, but they made him look slim and slender and like, I don't know, they kind of drew like an Abercrombie model with crazy hair, right? Carolyn, on the other hand, oh my gosh, her drawing, I can't seem to find it very quickly here, but it's bad. I'll keep looking for it here in just a moment, but we'll go back to Joe Rogan. It does make you wonder, like, whose idea is this sort of drawing? I don't know. Anyway, we'll find it and keep going.
Fuck
It
happened?
looks like it melted.
Have you seen it?
I just saw
It looks like a supermodel.
Oh, what SVF does?
Yes.
Yeah.
The
No, I
guy
mean-
who drew him.
I
Whoever the
mean,
fuck drew-
one of them I saw.
Maybe there's more than one artist.
Maybe there's one else, because some of those ones I saw.
One of them.
Well,
made-
unflattering.
He's referring to Carolyn Ellison. Carolyn Ellison looks like she melted. That's what he's referring to.
He looked like an anime superhero.
You're joking.
No, like perfect chiseled jawline. Ridiculous. He looked like he lost 30 pounds, started working out. Look at this. Look at that.
Are you kidding?
What the fuck, man? Look at that guy on the left. That guy looks like Superman.
Well,
Doesn't he? Look how hot that
Show
guy
Carolyn.
I almost feel like it's not.
It's like Clark
accurate,
Kent or
but
something.
It might be.
Yeah.
is. I feel like someone's fucking with
Because
us.
there's a few other pictures when I Googled, like, or
Yeah, there's some
when I
rough
searched
pictures though.
It
court.
seems like
There's
someone's
other
fucking with
ones.
us because that guy's handsome as fuck.
Because there's this one.
Yeah.
That's not the same.
No, that one's
not the
terrible.
same.
What
Oh,
is
that's
that?
not real. That's Satan's drawing.
But
But that one right there, if that is
Where's
real,
Carolyn.
it's like, come on, that's
I think
not
there-
real.
there-
this is bullshit.
That's
bottom one.
I
bullshit.
think it
Because
might
look at what they did with the girl.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
look at that picture there. Even
Yeah.
that picture is.
But Carol
hilarious.
looks like she's melting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to. I mean,
But she's probably massively depressed. I mean, I bet like
Oh.
that's also
All right, let's
They're
keep
doing
going.
an incredible job.
Who is?
for real.
Well,
Has to
Wait.
rat on her boyfriend, and she's already pleaded guilty, and for a lesser sentence, she's going to rat him out.
well,
that
I
whole
mean, I don't know
thing
who
is-
SBF's PR team is, but they're doing an incredible job.
Every media outlet.
For real?
That's literally, look at Elon's face there. That's literally Elon's troll face right there. Oh, I don't know
she
who his
has to
PR
rat on
team
her.
is, but they're doing an incredible job. You ready for this? Watch his face when he starts saying it. Right after here. Watch his face.
A PR team is, but they're doing an incredible job.
For real?
Well, I mean, the dude ripped tons of people off and stole their money, and yet he's getting basically, back rub from the press.
Well, don't you think that's because of the amount of money that he donated?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is.
It might have something to do with that. I'm not that cynical. Yes. I generally don't think people are influenced by money.
Well, I don't know what he's doing, but
something's going on.
The number of articles that I've seen where it's like, where it's basically, a misunderstood philanthropist.
The guy was a fraud. Let's be clear. He defrauded a lot of people. He almost defrauded Taylor Swift. She dodged the bullet on that by not signing the contract in time because everything hit the fan with the contract on her desk.
It's ridiculous.
Well, your bullshit meter went off when he was offering money to buy in with you with Twitter, correct? Yeah. Like a large amount.
Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people, fell for his bullshit.
Yep.
But I mean, first of all, I hadn't really heard of the guy. I'm like, who is this guy? And what did he do? And he's in the Bahamas. That's pretty sus to begin with.
He's very sus.
Like who's like, if you're on a tropical island, like finance organizations in tropical islands generally have a bad track record.
That is so on it. I love that. And then it's an unregulated industry as well. That's a really good point.
And he's involved in crypto.
And crypto is,
which is
scam.
like,
there's a lot of the scam probability in crypto is high.
It's high.
So
yeah, I'm not saying it's all scams, but
no,
that I would leave that distinction for what are those fucking NFTs? I think that's like 80% scam, except for Beeple. Beeple's legit. I mean, but it gives you like digital art.
Yeah, Beeple's stuff is great. But I mean, NFTs. The funny thing is that the NFT is not even on the blockchain. It's just a URL to the JPEG. So it's not even like it's like.
Well, the purchase transaction is on the blockchain. Is the thesis, I believe.
You should at least encode the JPEG in the blockchain, because like if the URL, if the company housing the image goes out of business, you don't have the image anymore.
I never understood it. I tried so hard. I know I have a friend who made millions just selling an artist. I'm like, okay, save that money because eventually people are going to figure this out. Like,
I mean, there's with art, there is a fair bit of money laundering and tax avoidance that is. So some of these things that seem inexplicable,
like Hunter Biden. You going to talk about Hunter Biden's paintings?
No.
Did he actually?
Keep in mind that WeWork, I guess. Yeah, I was just reading this as well. Thank you for saying that, Josh. WeWork planning to file bankruptcy as early as next week, according to people familiar with the matter. This is a Wall Street Journal post just out. Chapter 11, bankruptcy petition. It's down like 11% in after hours or more. Missed interest payments to bondholders on October 2nd, kicking off a 30-day grace period. I mean, why is that a surprise? As of June, WeWork maintains 777 locations across 39 countries. It was just a bad idea. It's a bad business model led by a bad leader. But then now you've got that, who was the guy who came up with that business? WeWork founder. He's going on to do like some Adam Newman. Now he's doing some other real estate startup called Flow. And it's supposed to be like a crypto Web3 real estate thing or whatever. I have no idea. And was it Flow? Andrew, maybe it was something else. He's doing something with, Adam Newman tries to explain Flow. Still don't know what it's about, despite Andreessen Horowitz backing. If you go to flow.com, it just, I mean, maybe that's not their actual website but Adam Newman's project's called Flow. But anyway, that's just a quick little tangent there on what's going on with WeWork. Let's keep going with this interview.
You sell paintings for large sums of money?
Immense sums of money.
Okay, it's
hundreds of thousands.
probably
of dollars.
that seems unlikely to be a legit transaction.
Unlikely, right?
Unlikely.
Yeah, very unlikely. The work's not bad though. I gotta say, like
Yeah.
for that kind of bullshit art, it's not that bad.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that it's hard to price art,
Right.
yeah, because it's in the eye of the beholder. So
Got it. It's flow.life.com. It literally is a website you could have coded with AI in about 30 seconds. And they raised $300 million. It's insane. Like once you're in that VC world, it's crazy. It's one of the reasons why with HouseHack, we're not raising with VC because it's bull crap. We're raising at a 1-to-1 valuation. They raise, at like 4 to 5 to 10x. It's crazy.
So how can you say whether something
Like this is his stuff. How much did that go for? $225K. A steal.
not
It's not
bad?
that bad.
Let's keep
Alan,
going.
you
Not
got
untalented.
what does it say underneath it?
Paintings.
It's an interesting article. So I read the article a couple years ago. I can't remember what their argument was, but it's one of those things.
Starts there, like they spent money to buy paintings directly from artists.
Oh,
Somebody in the chat says, my company owns flow.com. That's hilarious. We built a custom CRM and tax application with Flow. Oh, that's awesome. Yes, to separate. I don't mean flow.com. I mean flow.life. My bad. And yes, I did see that about the NAR lawsuit, the $1.8 billion. I don't know yet what that's going to mean. I will make a video on it, though, because I really have to think about that some more. I already have some thoughts, and I have a feeling as to what it's going to mean. It's going to suck for realtors. I can't believe it actually happened. And I think it's going to be pretty good for buyers, but we'll see.
In the 40s.
the United. Okay, even
They're
though modern
funding
art
them.
and American diplomacy were of a piece, Soviet propaganda asserted that the United States was
Okay, whatever.
how much.
This is all
Three
art right
lemons.
now.
This was they were going to hit the jackpot with this bad boy,
Yeah.
and so they went through with it, and yeah, Christie's, that's it.
Come on,
Which
we
is
need
very
juice.
Yeah.
that they do that, because like, wouldn't you just want it all fucked up and old?
Sure.
I mean, that's the real piece of art.
Yeah.
The real piece of art is not like some woman in 2001
Yeah.
painting over it. That's just
Sure.
crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy art for the aesthetics, but not for the name value.
Yeah, I feel the
Yeah.
same way.
Yeah.
I enjoy art just because of what it makes you, how it makes you feel. You know,
Yeah.
it's you know, it's a cool thing. I mean, obviously my studio's
All right, let's go.
I was posting all these fight videos, and then someone on Twitter at the time said, "Hey, you should fight Zuck," and I said, "Well, I'm willing to fight if he is." And then Zuck posted, I think on Instagram or something, name the place or something to that effect. And I was like, okay, how about the Vegas Octagon? And then Italy actually was willing to let us use the Coliseum. So then I was like, well, can't turn that down, you know?
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, if it's going to be in the Coliseum, we're not like, I like UFC and everything, but we don't have like tons of ads and UFC branding on the Coliseum because it's a historical, play. It's a history, it's a place
Right.
of great history. You don't want to
right,
just have it be all like NASCAR.
right.
So then and then Zuck pulled out.
What? Wait. No. I don't think you could just say, and then Zuck pulled out. Elon's like, yo, let's go to your house. And there's so much more to the story. And I don't know everything, but I definitely know there's way more than we just heard. To the point where Elon was like live streaming himself on full self-driving, wanting to go to Zuck's house to fight Zuck at his house. And then Zuck's like, no, man. Like, no free testing of the skills, basically, bro. Like, if you want to do a fight, let's do it real. And Elon's like, yo, why are you chicken to scrimmage me? And then it kind of just like faded, and then nobody ever heard about it again. Zuck's kind of like, well, hit me up when you're actually serious about having a real fight as opposed to a backyard fight. But now Elon's here saying, He backed out. Bro, no. Like, even Elon supporters should call bullshit on that right there. That, no.
So he pulled out of it. He pulled out of it?
Yeah.
No.
Oh. What was the narrative? What'd you hear, Jamie?
Yes, Joe! Yes!
Well,
I know you
listen,
did.
I'm willing to. So he was like, "Oh no, it's got to be."
Dude, I love Joe's sus right here. I love Joe sussing this out. Dude, let's go.
UFC rules. I'm like, well, okay, we're gonna have UFC rules in the Coliseum. It's fine, but we just don't want to have. You got to respect the historical integrity of the place.
You just the Coliseum just seems like the coolest place to do it. That's
Yeah.
why.
And then Elon distracts. And then Elon flips and distracts. No way. Elon flips it and turns it into, yeah, basically, let's go back to talking about the Coliseum. Oh, no.
I mean,
Yeah,
if you're like
of course.
Gladiator, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
If they said it's okay.
Yeah.
So he just wants it to be in the actual UFC, like in Vegas.
Yeah. So then he said, "Oh well, you know, he's accused me of not being serious." And I said, "Look, listen. At the end of the day, if I'll fight you any place, anywhere, under any rules."
Oh,
Zuck. That's what I said.
Wow.
So I'm, you know, name the. He said name the place. I'm like, I'm happy to fight him in a house, on a mouse, with a louse. We'd like go full Dr. Seuss here.
Now, how much time?
I'm a way bigger than him. This is unfair.
I know you.
I don't think you should fight me
because you're so much bigger than him.
Yeah, I'm like 50% heavier than him.
Yeah.
I'll just use I've got my patented walrus move.
And now he's doing the angle of, well, I would have won anyway. Zuck shouldn't fight me anyway. Oh, dude, no. Twisted narrative.
Line him.
Walrus move?
Well, you know, like walrus doesn't need martial arts training.
Right.
Because it's really big. You don't want to go wrestling a walrus.
Right.
Because he's going to roll on you.
Have you ever rolled with someone who's much smaller?
Keep in mind, I found a Zuck post. Zuck said Elon won't confirm a date, then says he needs surgery. Now asks to do a practice round in my backyard. If Elon ever gets serious about a real date and official event, he knows how to reach me. Otherwise, time to move on. I'm going to focus on competing with people who take the sport seriously. That's not Musk or Zuck backing out. I'm just trying to be factual here, and I can't defend Musk on that. And I think Elon or I think Joe Rogan here. I mean, look at his face. Look at Joe Rogan's face. Joe Rogan's like, "You're a shyster, Musk, aren't you?" Come on, dude. It totally is sussing it out.
Smaller than you that does jujitsu?
Yes.
Lex. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I did 10 years of martial arts.
How much have you trained personally?
I did for a decade of it.
Well, you did a lot of karate, right?
I did
Judo,
Kyokushinkai, karate.
Yeah.
I did some jujitsu, taekwondo, street fighting, which was involuntary. I'm, you know, I think I'd be decent. I did martial arts competitions when I was a teenager.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
So look at you, George St. Pierre, Elon,
Yeah,
John Danaher, the great master, and Lex Friedman.
But like Lex is, I think he's got like 20% heavier than Zuck. So, and I'm way bigger than Lex.
Yeah.
That's why they have weight categories.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to talk to Danaher at all? The guy on the left?
Yeah,
That guy's fascinating.
no.
Do you know his history?
No, he's from New Zealand or something.
He was a professor of philosophy at Columbia
Okay.
and fell in love with jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
I mean, fell in love with it to the point where he was sleeping on the mats and teaching all day long. He's an obsessive. He is a real Kaizen disciple. And
he seems zen.
Oh man, he is one of the most unique characters I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
One of the most.
I will say that is very unsurprising for Elon Musk to spin the narrative like that. Huge credit to Joe Rogan for sussing that out. Never ended up getting the full narrative here from Rogan or the staff or whatever. In fairness, I think that's awkward. Like, let other people do that, like me, you know, from a third person point of view, because if Joe Rogan fact checks him and makes him look like a fool on the show, Elon's not going to come back to the show. Other people might not want to come to the show. So it's very difficult in Joe Rogan's position, but he gave enough of an indication where he's like, I'm onto this. I know all about the narrative. I'm letting you tell a story. I know what the story should sound like, and that ain't it. All right. Wow. So let's keep going with the podcast.
Most brilliant men I've ever met, and he's completely dedicated to jiu-jitsu. And he has raised through this, particularly
Go
this
ahead
one
a little bit.
Him to
Okay.
a duel under any circumstances.
sword fight.
What?
But
How much you need to prepare?
I don't need any time.
No time at all.
No.
How's your cardio?
Wait,
Not, it's
what?
not-
Let's go back.
Instructor.
There's
that's
more
there.
fight
He doesn't
here.
really have that hair. He bleaches it. John Danaher is universally regarded as the greatest jiu-jitsu instructor alive, and his student is universally regarded as the greatest jiu-jitsu competitor alive.
Yeah.
And it is because John is like a complete like a guy out of a superhero book.
Mhm.
Like you're not going to find another one of those. A guy
Yeah.
with a genius level IQ who's one of the, I mean, you talk to him, he's fascinating. And he is obsessed with combat sports, warfare, like strategy.
Yeah.
Brilliant guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Where is it?
Brilliant.
But no,
guy.
you see, I was impressed when I met him.
Yeah.
I mean, the things that like, if I was fighting someone who I was not, where I was not much bigger than them, then I would be more concerned.
How much
but,
time would you need to prepare?
I like how Elon is now okay. Elon's now backtracking here. Joe Rogan just went on a whole tangent on somebody totally different. And now Elon's, in this defensive position, right? His hands are like it's defensive. It's like self-soothing when you sit like this or you sit with your arms like this. He hasn't been sitting like that. He's been sitting pretty casually most of the time. Now he realizes he just said something that was a fib. And now he's after Joe Rogan's entire rant on somebody totally unrelated. Wasn't really a rant, it was a discussion. Elon Musk goes back to the Zuck issue. Let's listen to how he tries to unbury himself from this.
Prepare.
I don't need any time.
No time at all?
No.
How's your cardio?
No,
Let me
if
back
I
that
was
up.
fighting someone
How much time do you need to prepare?
who I was not, where I was not much bigger than them, then I would be more concerned.
How much
but,
time would you need to prepare?
I don't need any time.
No time at all?
No.
How's your cardio?
No, it's not. That will not be a factor.
Really?
No. I mean,
What's the likelihood of this actually happening?
I'm willing to do it anytime, anywhere, any place, any rules.
Well, I think stating it this way might
Yeah.
accelerate this process,
Great.
especially on this platform.
I mean,
I think we can
I
make this
challenge him
happen.
to a duel under any circumstances.
Sword fight?
Oh,
Sure.
Jesus. That's not necessary.
Pistols at dawn.
That's not necessary. I think physical hand to
Nerf
hand.
guns at noon.
Yeah. Nerf guns at noon. Well, you could slash it out in the metaverse, but
Yeah.
in the real
Oh.
world.
Listen, there's just a reason they have weight categories,
Mm.
you know. So, there's a friend of mine who is pretty good at fighting, but she weighs about half of what I do, and I said, let me show you why there's weight categories in fighting,
Mm.
and I'm gonna do a move called the walrus, and you have to I'm just gonna lie on you. I'm not gonna put you in a lock or anything. I'm just gonna lie on you. But I'm gonna, position myself such that it's hard to get out from under me,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna lie crossways on you, and you try to get away, and you won't be able to get away, because you couldn't. Just like if
Joe's like, I don't know about that, man. It takes somebody with skills, man. Don't just rely on a weight sandbag here.
a horse falls on you,
Right.
you can get trapped under a horse.
Right, but you're not a horse. What do you weigh? About 230?
Yeah, 240. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not a horse, but I'm saying in the limit, if something's heavy enough, like if a horse falls on you and dies, you can get trapped under a horse and not be able to get yourself out.
Right.
A horse weighs 1,500 to 2,000 pounds on average.
But if someone's good enough, I mean, I'm sure you've seen like absolute weight classes in jiu-jitsu where you'll get a 145-pound competitor who strangles a 220-pound competitor, and they're both well trained. Because if someone is that
that's
good,
unlikely.
it's not unlikely. It happens quite often. When you
Okay.
get elite competitors, like elite black belts at the 145, 155 pound weight limit, you'd be shocked. There's a ton of videos of these guys who will strangle much larger black belts.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just not highly unlikely. And if this were not the case, there would not be strict weight categories in martial arts.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. But
Very strict weight
I don't know about that. I think the weight categories are to equalize the fairness, right? Because at that advanced level of training, even a 2 or 3% edge makes a difference, right? At scale, 2 or 3% edge, because let's say you're larger than somebody else and you're equally trained, but you're larger and you win solely because you weigh 60 pounds more, but you've both equally trained your whole lives the same and you have that 2 or 3% edge. That is the fairness that weight categories are trying to balance. Elon is making this argument that weight categories exist because if you're 60 pounds higher, you will basically 99% of fights win just by lying down on somebody. And Joe Rogan's here like, I don't know, man. There's some pretty, skinny dudes who are really skilled who take down big people. Elon's like, nah, chances are slim to none. Like, Elon's implying weight categories exist to prevent this impossible extreme. I think weight categories exist to level the playing field by shaving off even those small percentage of gains between equally trained individuals. I guess that's on to everybody's opinion, though.
Reason why they allow absolutes in jiu-jitsu is because it is the thrill of watching these smaller people go against much larger people, and sometimes they win.
No, I just like armies, when the people take note when a small army defeats a big army because it is so unusual.
Yes.
Not because it's normal.
Right.
If there's it was 2 against 10,000, and boy, do we beat those 2 guys up. More likely what happens. Like if you're severely outnumbered, you will lose, almost certainly.
So look at the size difference between these 2 guys. Play it out.
Well, it's the end of the video.
This is Mikey Musumeci, who is another fascinating individual. This guy is another super genius who trains every day, 12 hours a day. And he is competing against a black belt in the heavyweight division. Mikey Musumeci might weigh 145 pounds, and he beats this guy.
Guy doesn't look to be in super great shape.
Part where the beating
what happened here?
It seemed like he got penalties or something.
Oh, they pushed him out of
I
bounds?
don't know what that one on the
I think they're out of bounds.
Okay.
That's
restart.
all that was. That's just out of bounds. So scoot ahead to see what happens when
in
he
his
catches him
guard.
with. What happened?
I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just very unlikely.
Oh, so he won by points?
Yeah, so I wasn't sure
okay.
exactly
So he won by
what happened
points.
I think you're making the point for me here.
Yeah. Well, in that case, but
Yeah.
that guy's strangled a lot of much larger people than him. But again, he's extraordinary. He's a world champion. He's a world champion for ONE, which is this huge organization in Singapore. They do these events where they have all kinds of different martial arts. They have MMA, Thai boxing.
Yeah.
So you do it under any rules?
Sure.
All right, let's go. I like it. I like the fact that you're interested in doing this. It's fun. It makes it fun.
Yeah, I mean, I could, this could be an exercise in hubris.
Yeah, there's some regret there.
Find out.
Yeah.
We could find out. I like the fact that Zuck's interested in it too. I like the fact that he trains so much.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't very many ways to actually, if you stick to the rules of jiu-jitsu, like for example, if you want to put someone in an arm lock, you have to be able to extend their arm.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody is strong enough that you cannot extend their arm, then you're limited to
chokes,
and you can do an arm lock across the groin with both arms and legs, like Hoist Gracie did upside down, and I think it was like the 3rd UFC fight or something like that.
Yeah,
but he was pretty severely damaged.
That was when he fought Chemo. Yeah, that enormous guy.
Yeah, and he did upside down arm lock across the groin because he could not do an arm lock, a sort of sidebar arm lock. So, but after that, people were like wise to that move. So they were like, we're not going to be allow themselves to get an arm lock across the groin without, that was like a, overconfidence, I think.
Well, it was exhaustion. I mean, they fought like tooth and nail for something like 7 or 8 minutes, and Hoist survived and then eventually wore the guy. Well, when you're a big steroided up guy like that too, the oxygen depletion, like
All
the
right,
amount
let's
of
fast forward a
oxygen
little
your
bit. So
muscles
that's the fight portion. Have to say, Elon really tried to backtrack the oops, Mark Zuck backed out. The only way he was able to backtrack off of Mark Zuck backed out was basically by committing to being willing to fight Mark Zuck anytime, anywhere. So he's kind of reactivating the whole fight thing, even though he probably didn't mean to. He kind of had to because he called out Zuck for backing out, even though that wasn't true. Interesting move. All right, what else we got here? Fast forward a bit.
UFC is not just jiu-jitsu. You can punch people.
Yeah, let's keep going.
Is that the one where you bet the ear off?
No, this is that's Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield. That's from the 90s.
Yeah.
No, this fight that took place this last weekend. Francis Ngannou, who is the UFC heavyweight champion, he vacated the belt so he could take this fight with Tyson Fury.
More fighting. Let's keep going.
I knew you would take it easy on me in the first round. So the only way I'm going to knock him over is momentum. So I got to basically run.
Wait. We're back to more fight stuff. Hold on. This part seems interesting.
And I had like some childhood injuries. Like I said, I was in some pretty severe fights as a kid. Like really, I was almost killed at one point. So
really,
yeah.
What happened?
I was just in school in South Africa. It's a very violent place. There's been many involuntary fights. It's just the way it was. But anyway, so I had I had some rugby injuries as well. I saw South Africa won the World Cup, which is cool, and in rugby. So I think that was not a good starting position. But then the world champion sumo wrestlers, they did kind of like a demo bout for my birthday. And since it was my birthday, they call up the birthday boy and say hey, do you want to sumo wrestle? This is where it's a similar weight differential. He was 50% heavier than me. So I don't know, 360, 370 pounds. I knew he would take it easy on me in the first round. So the only way I'm going to knock him over is momentum. So I got to basically run at him. So I did. Run at him, did a judo throw, knocked him over, and smashed the disc in my neck in the process.
Oh.
Yeah. It'd be like running at that wall, If you run at a wall, it's going to hurt.
Did you have to get it fused or anything?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so it's like you can knock over someone. You can defeat someone bigger than you if you're willing to smash a disc in your neck.
Yeah. Well, if you know what you're doing and you're willing to smash a disc in your neck, those two things.
So he wasn't expecting me to be a total lunatic on round one. And he defeated me obviously in round 2 and 3 because he was like, oh, now he knows what to expect. But
all right, let's keep going.
C6 because it could slide. And when it would slide forward, the C5, C6 would bang and crunch the nerve.
And what does the normal neck
This has to do with the surgery.
do? Insanely powerful and fast.
Yeah. Cool.
So you compete at the highest level with your neck fused.
Yeah. I'm not too worried about that.
Aljamain Sterling, who was the UFC bantamweight champion, he got his neck fused. Got a disc replaced rather in his neck, and then went on to defend his title 3 times.
This isn't helping Elon. Elon's trying to use the surgery as an out, and now Elon's like, damn. Look at Joe's face there in that clip. Wait, look at that. Look at that. Joe's like, got you, bitch. Hold on, what is going on here?
Just a few decades ago.
Yeah.
Now you're good to go.
It'll be okay then.
Yeah. Well, medical science is pretty fucking incredible what they can do now. I mean, injuries that would have you would have been fucked for the rest of your life just a few decades ago.
Yeah. Now
you're good to go.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. We've kind of rekindled this Zuck versus Elon fire.
No, I mean, he's checking out.
I don't think he's checking out.
No, he's checking out.
Do you think so?
Yeah. Buck.
Well, maybe he's listening.
Suck. I'll goad him into fighting using taunts.
It might work. I mean, somehow or another, you got him
Puck,
to
puck,
agree
suck,
in the
suck,
first
suck.
place. I was stunned.
Surely he will respond to a taunt like that.
Yeah, surely. I mean, how can you resist? How can you resist? Yeah.
Exactly. Let's go full schoolyard taunting.
What if there was like real consequences on the line? Like, what if you guys had a real bet?
Okay, sure.
Like the moderation team from X takes over moderation of Facebook if you win.
No problem. Sounds good.
And if he wins, vice versa.
It was a fight for civilization.
Yeah. A literal fight for civilization.
I mean, I'll do it.
Wow. Heavy.
Sure.
And you wouldn't even train for this?
No, I'd train a little bit.
Train a little bit?
Yeah.
Like how many weeks you need?
I mean, I don't have to train. I could do it like tomorrow. I tried going to his house actually.
Did you really?
Yeah, because he lives in Palo Alto, and we're doing some, Tesla full self-driving testing. So
See, this is Elon literally trying to go back once again. We're like 40 to 50 minutes now from the fib of, oh, Zuck backed out. Elon keeps going back to it because he feels bad that he basically got exposed. Oh.
I'm like, well, I've got to pick a destination.
Did you press the button, go doo-doo, navigate to Zuck's house?
Yeah, basically.
Joe is so good. He's so good because he's like, I'm your friend, Elon. Oh, it's so easy. Boop, boop. Oh, yeah, I'm on autopilot. Like he's totally trying to like soften Elon's guilt here. He's a pro interviewer.
He's not far. He's like I think he's like 3 miles away from the Tesla California headquarters.
Wow.
But I don't know. There's nobody there.
He's probably in Hawaii.
He was, according to a spokesman, he was traveling.
Oh yeah. It would have been wild if he was there.
Yeah,
what would you have said?
I literally like anytime. I just thought it was funny to go like, I'm coming over to your house. I'm gonna get you.
Well, it's even more funny when it's two of the richest guys in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, he didn't answer.
Well, too bad.
Yeah, too bad.
It's just fun. It's fun, and I'm glad you're interested just for the fun of it.
I mean, I think it would be actually like Dana White thinks it would be like the a really big ticket fight.
It would be fucking huge.
Yeah,
I would commentate on that.
Yeah, I mean the proceeds could go to charity and stuff. It'd be
huge.
Yeah, it'd be crazy. People would want to see what the hell's going on.
Oh my god, it would be fucking huge.
Yeah,
yeah, it would be really crazy.
Crazy.
Like if they close the thing.
Yeah.
And Bruce Buffer is in there.
Yeah.
It's time.
Let's go.
The place would go fucking bananas.
Bananas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Does it have to be in the Coliseum? Would you agree?
No, I'll do it anywhere. I literally said anywhere,
anywhere,
anytime.
You know where you should do
any
it?
rules.
You know where you should do it? The Sphere in Las Vegas.
The Sphere is great. I was just there.
Amazing.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I was there.
I've only seen it on the outside, but it looks
incredible. The inside's even better.
I've seen video. I haven't seen it live, but I
was there on Saturday night, and it's awesome. Like it's really good. I think it might be the best show on earth.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I mean, if you have visuals that accompany the music, like if you have like someone like Roger Waters, like which his
great.
Wow. Let's see who else.
Sense that when we think about like the hedonism of Rome, its final days, that's Vegas.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's go. Are you not entertained?
You will fucking be entertained.
You'll be fucking
entertained.
So entertained.
No doubt.
Let's do it.
There's one point in time where you were trying to get people to do a pause on AI.
I mean, I signed on to a letter that someone else wrote. I didn't think that people would actually pause.
But you thought it was probably a good idea if they did.
No, Elon thought it was a good idea to be part of people saying we should pause.
I mean,
I think so.
Yeah.
Too.
I mean, making some sort of digital superintelligence seems like it could be dangerous.
It certainly has the potential, and certainly has the potential. Well, when you were talking about the what this mind virus, how it was able to propagate through the social media and being in control of social media platforms. Yeah. Think about what that means if that same mind virus gets in control of a superintelligence. And that is possible.
Yeah, no, that's actually what I think the biggest danger is for AI is that if AI is implicitly programmed, I don't think they do it explicitly, but implicitly programmed with values that lead to that have led to the destruction of downtown San Francisco, and a bunch of these AI companies are in the either in San Francisco or in the San Francisco Bay Area, then you could implicitly program an AI to believe that extinction of humanity is what it should try to do.
Right.
I mean, if you take that guy who was on the front page of the New York Times and you take his philosophy, which is prevalent in San Francisco, the AI could conclude, like he did, that there are where he literally says there are 8 billion people in the world. It would be better if there were none, and engineer that outcome.
Yeah. Well, especially if it doesn't need us anymore.
I do see people say things like, and this is anecdotal, but why would I bring children into this world? And it breaks my heart. I mean, I love children, but
if it becomes sentient and then has the ability to make its own decisions and make a better version of itself, it would find us to be nothing but a problem. Like, we have nothing to offer it anymore.
Risk. Yeah, it is a risk. So, and like if you query ChatGPT, I mean, it's pretty woke,
Yeah.
So, people did like experiments like write a poem praising Donald Trump, and it won't. But you ask, write a poem praising Joe Biden, and it will.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
That's a little sketchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's unfortunately it's programmed, and
yes,
yeah,
it's programmed to be that way.
Is it possible to overcome those problems? Is it possible that we could realize the dangers that are involved in creating this, but somehow or another engineer it in a way that would be ultimately beneficial to people? Or is that just a whim? As a hope and a prayer, a utopian version of what could happen versus the most likely outcome?
If you say like, what is the most likely outcome of AI? I think the most likely outcome, to be specific about it, is a good outcome. Most likely a good outcome, but it's not for sure. So I think we have to be careful how we program the AI, and make sure that it is not accidentally anti-human. So, the accidentally extinctionist AI, you wouldn't want that.
Or even pruning.
Well, that is kind of how it works. Is that have
perhaps
yeah,
we cause problems, or
keep in mind that a lot of these examples Elon's giving are straight from Twitter too. It's funny. It's like you see people complaining on Twitter, and this is the stuff they talk about. Like, well, GPT will praise Biden, but not Trump, and it's true. It's a problem, but yeah, it's straight from Twitter commentary world.
And then we have 30% less garbage in the ocean, and then it makes this call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something we should be concerned about. And I actually will need to go. Oh shit! Sorry, I need to go.
Shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, because I have to go to the airport. I have to fly. I'm flying to London.
Yeah, you were explaining that.
Yeah, just for AI safety. There's an AI safety conference in London.
So yeah,
AI safety conference in London. All right, pretty sure that's the end of it. Hold on.
I don't know. Have some kind of regulatory oversight of some kind.
All right, regulatory oversight over AI. All right, listen, next up, we are going to the Jordan Belfort interview live in 26 minutes. Stay tuned for that. HouseHack deadline is tomorrow. Go to househack.com, read the circular. That's it. We're closing the fundraise. That's it. It'll be done. The 2023 fundraise we've been waiting for so long is over. At the end of the day tomorrow, personally, I can't wait. It's been a lot of work. You can email us at ir@househack.com, and then we can actually focus on the real work, just continuing the renovations that we have. Those are going on either way, acquiring properties when they're in a severe distress, which is what we continue to do, and bringing those rentable properties to market. Jordan Belfort interview live in 25 minutes. Short disclaimer here, this video was all commentary, not personalized advice for anything, just critical commentary on Elon Musk, Joe Rogan. We didn't watch all of it, so obviously go to Spotify to watch the whole thing. Thanks so much for being here. Click the redirect link to get to the Jordan Belfort interview coming up in 25. Thanks.